The Chronicles of Bain. Skull Chewer by Neil Andrew Miller. Elias Bain, shock trooper of Cadian, joins the vaunted ranks of the Callous Jacks. The enormous orc's power claw whistles over Bain's head. Another inch lower, and it would have pulped his skull. The Emperor protects, just like he did on Tragus 5, Gessalnor Core, and in the Cressian trenches. His divine will has turned away every blade and bullet aimed at Trooper Elias Bain in the last 6 years, and in payment, all he has asked is that Bain brings death to the enemies of the Imperium. It is a contract that Elias Bain has been more than happy to honor. Having avoided his own death once again, Bain scrambles out of Urgrish Skullchewer's reach. Not an easy thing to do in the confines of this narrow defile. The creature lets out a roar of frustration and stomps towards him. As it does, thick, viscous blood continues to pour from the stump that terminates just above the elbow of its right arm. Any sense of self-preservation the thing might have had has evaporated in its towering rage. "You lot killed my boys!" Skullchewer roars. "Good boys they was! Cleaver boys!" The creature's screams are almost drowned out by the sound of heavy bombardment overhead. The duel must end soon. This dark and rubble-strewn crack in the side of the mountain will only provide protection for so long. Bain takes aim at the one eye that isn't protected by the thick slab of rusting metal covering the entire right side of the orc's head. He knows the shot will go wide before the trigger is even pulled. The thing is fast, despite its grotesque injury. The lasgun bolt ricochets harmlessly off Skullchewer's helmet, and then, without pause, the orc charges directly at Bain. A solid green wall of meat, muscle, metal, and hate, intent on smashing the trooper against the rock wall, turning him into nothing more than a bloody smear. Bain leaps to his left, and the orc misses him by hair's breadth. Unable to check its movement, the creature runs headlong into the rock, causing a hollow metallic boom to echo around the defile. A laugh escapes Bain's lips as he watches the orc flounder. This is a monster that has ravaged Imperial lines for months. This is the great and dreadful Skullchewer, this brutish, stupid thing. The huge orc then spins around, faster than it has any right to in its injured state, and whips a spray of thick blood right into Bain's eyes, blinding him instantly. Frantically, he backs away, squeezing off shots from his lasgun. The orc's blood drips off his face, and he can taste it on his tongue. His gorge rises at the horror of it. By some miracle, several of the wild shots do make contact, causing Skullchewer to bellow in rage again. This gives Bain a few precious moments to wipe the hideous, oily liquid away from his eyes and curse his stupidity, before he sees a gigantic power claw screaming towards his head once more. Trooper Elias Bain's head is held high, because he knows he is meant to be here. On this battlefield, amongst these fine men and women, this is what the Emperor wishes for him. Bain was always meant to be a Callous Jack. This is his reward for half a decade of devoted service, and an impressive track record in combat. The Emperor expects, and Elias Bain has delivered. The frisson of excitement and pride that washes through him as Sergeant Min Ortolai approaches is almost enough to take his feet out from under him. Bain clenches his jaw, forcing a measure of calm to pass through his body. The sergeant holds up a small melter cutter, its tip burning a shade of blue too bright to look at directly. Without a word, she brings the cutter to Bain's chest and begins to carve a thin letter C into the right breast of his flak armor. C for Callous, C for Cadian, C for comrades. This is the ceremony that every shock trooper who joins the Callous Jacks goes through. Bain is becoming part of a legend. Here and now in this encampment, mere miles from where the orc horde threatens to overwhelm the entire planet of Coranth, Ortolai takes a while to finish the brand, cutting methodically into the plasweave. The rest of the squad watch on as she goes through the ritual. their violet eyes glowing in the light of the weak setting sun. There are 8 of them. Artoli is the 9th, and now Elias Bain is the 10th, replacing Trooper Ando Parant, who met his end on a raiding mission several weeks ago. There's a degree of wariness on all those eyes. Bain's service record may be exemplary, and Captain Tansing's recommendation was glowing. But this is the Callous Jacks. Nobody gets a free pass, no matter who they are or what they've done. Only 2 of the 8 seem openly hostile towards him, but then Kitcher looks like he'd be hostile to his own mother, and it seems there may have been more to Howell's relationship with Parant than just mere camaraderie, so her attitude is understandable. Regardless, Bain is now one of them. The fact that Sergeant Artoli has stood back with a grim look of satisfaction on her face proves it. "All done, Trooper," she tells him. "You're a Callous Jack now." He looks down. On the left side of his chest plate is the golden Aquila, and now, on the right, is a scorched black C that stands out against the dull armor more than it probably should in the twilight. They all have the same brand. They all have been through the same initiation, started by Jackan Elliger himself all those years ago during the famed campaign and the Kansas Arc. Callous Jack made the first brand with the red-hot glowing end of an orc power stabber, marking the 5 members of his team that survived the Battle of Gull Spire. The Callous Jacks have subsequently become famous in the last 50 years across the whole 96th Cadian Regiment. The pride fairly bursts from Bain as he looks back up at his new squad mates. "I dunno, Min," growls mouldering Teg, a thick-set corporal, seemingly carved from the same rockcrete they're surrounded by. "You sure we should be letting children into the Jacks? Young'un here doesn't look like he shaves more than once a rotation." This earns a laugh from the rest. Bain resolves to get on Teg's good side as soon as possible. The hard-faced corporal clearly has sway with them all. That's important. That's valuable. "He'll do," Sergeant Artoli tells him. "You all read what he did on Gethelna. Any man that can seize the initiative and run a successful counter-strike like that, with his sergeant dead and less than a quarter of the squad still alive, deserves a place with us." Bain's chest swells. "Don't look so pleased with yourself," Trooper Howell says, fixing him with a stare that speaks volumes. "All of those men still died." Bain returns the stare in kind. "Not a day goes by when I don't think of those men," he tells her. "But we completed the mission. They did not die in vain, and they honored the Emperor with their sacrifice." There's a murmur of what Bain hopes is grudging approval from a few members of the squad. Howell spits out a gob of phlegm, not taking her eyes off him. "Yeah, well, you've still got a lot to prove, boy. To us, anyway. Don't forget that." Bain smiles tightly. "I won't." "Trooper Bain is here because he deserves to be," Artoli says again, ending any further protestations from Howell, or anyone else for that matter. She takes a deep breath. "And now the squad is finally up to full field strength again. It's time we turned our attention back to Urgris Skullchewer." "Can't anyone else do it, boss?" Teg groans. "My arse has barely had time to settle itself down after getting out of those bastard mountains." Artoli fixes the hardened trooper with a look that Bain has a feeling is well practiced. "Your arse belongs to the Imperium of Man, Teg. It goes wherever the Emperor tells it to." Teg affects a look of deep piety. "My arse is his to command as always, Min." He then lifts his bulk off the ammo box he's sitting on and gives his backside a slap. Everyone else chuckles at this display, even Artoli. Bain does not. Teg's attitude edges close to blasphemy, but the corporal seems to be a law unto himself, so Bain is careful to hide his discomfort. "As I was saying before Teg's arse interrupted," Artoli continues, "we know Skullchewer is somewhere in the northern reaches of the Caranthi lowlands, around a shrine complex known as Saint's Pyre. She indicates this on the data slate she's pulled from the kit bag beside her. It's been caught on Auspex scans several times with its commando squad, using the buried waterways for cover. That's allowed them to consistently attack our front lines around the staging grounds that the Montpellier Shields established in the winter. Going for the new recruits, Solmot Trassai says. Best way to spread fear. There are many murmurs of agreement. Trassai is a cold, sharp man, with a kill tally that earns him a huge amount of respect. He speaks little, but when he does, it counts. Indeed, Sergeant Artoli says. This is the longest they've stayed in one place for several rotations, so that's where we're headed. Valkyrie transports have been arranged for 0600 hours. Throne! Teg exclaimed. We travel in style for once. Artoli let out a derisive snort as she packs away her data slate. Skull chewers are top priority. These constant ambushes are taking a toll on the rank and file. Every trooper's terrified their head will be the next one down its gullet. The brass want it dead, before morale craters completely. She surveyed the squad warily. We take this one carefully, Jacks. This orc is something out of the ordinary. It's smart and brutal, and it knows how to fracture our discipline. This is met with thoughtful silence, even from the ebullient Teg. It will die, just like all enemies of the God Emperor, Bain remarks, keen to fill the silence. Artoli stares at him for a moment before nodding. Of course, Trooper Bain. All enemies of the God Emperor die. Eventually. The pause seems very deliberate. Bain isn't quite sure of her meaning, but he gives her a nod and a smile anyway, knowing how important it is to stay in her good books. Oh, look. The new boy's grinning, Min, Teg says, pointing a finger. He obviously likes the idea of taking on old Skull Chewer. Bain looks at Teg and keeps the smile resolutely on his face. I absolutely do. Because with your Emperor-blessed arse by my side, Corporal Teg, I have nothing to fear. There's a brief moment of stunned silence as everybody takes this in, and then relief washes over Bain as Teg bursts into a peal of laughter so loud that Urgrish Skullchewer can probably hear it himself from wherever he's hiding down in Saint's Pyre. There is no cause for laughter 12 hours later, as Elias Bain shuffles uncomfortably in the tight alcove he's positioned in. The damage done to Saint's Pyre makes him want to retch. Before the orcs landed, this planet was a paradise of shrines to the God Emperor. It was a world of peace and contemplation. Caranthe was famed throughout the sector. Bain's grandfather had visited once, on pilgrimage. He had spoken of soaring spires, the intoxicating smell of incense, and the feeling of awe at seeing his works laid out majestically across the planet's entire surface. All gone now, ravaged by years of conflict. Bain's hand tightens on the barrel of his lasgun. Easy, lad, Teg says in a hushed voice from his left. You'll shoot wild if you're angry. Bain looks down at the ruined shrine below, noting both the smears of dried black blood and piles of rubble that cover its once shining marble floor. They must pay for this, he replies, his tight voice no louder than a whisper. And they will, son, Teg whispers back. But only when we hit the marker, and only if you're calm. And Bain knows he's right, but it's hard to let go of the fury that burns inside him every time he looks out at the destruction wrought on Saint's Pyre. To distract him, he looks at the Auspex monitor to his right, searching for any signs of movement from one of the 4 remote lenses that the Jacks set up along this section at the watercourse. The tunnel below opens out into the shrine via a large culvert, emptying into a wide pool before disappearing back underneath the building on the opposite side from where Teg and Bain are positioned. It would have once been a place of holy benediction for those lucky enough to immerse themselves in the waters. No water now, just dirt, rubble, and dried blood. Bain wills himself to relax, the way Teg instructed, taking several deep breaths, His hand loosens on the lasgun's barrel. Teg pats him twice on the shoulder. He freezes on the third pat as Auspex shows movement from the top left feed. Large shapes are moving past the junction in the watercourse where Teg and Bain mounted their lenses 4 hours ago. "Under us," the heavy-set corporal whispers. Bain nods as he watches the hulking figures make their way past the lens. The speed and agility with which they move triggers an abstract terror in him that he didn't entirely understand. "Coming our way," Bain whispers back. "Fast." His hand tightens on the las barrel again, but not in anger this time. These commandos move with a purpose and intent that the young trooper never witnessed in the rank-and-file orcs he's fought in the past. These feel far more disciplined, more driven. Disconcertingly, they move and act more like humans than the monsters he's come to know. The first orc emerges from the culvert, padding softly across the pool's broken tile floor. A wide, jagged blade is slung across its back. Then comes the second, this one armed with a brutal war axe and a chunky firearm. In quick succession, several more orcs, all armed in similar fashion, emerge. Some of them take cursory glances around the shrine, but this is a path well travelled for them. They are quite relaxed. Bain's breath then catches in his throat as he sees the next orc appear. There is no mistaking Urgrish Skull Chewer. The orc is enormous. A full head taller than any other member of the squad and twice as wide. The power claw on its left arm moves as though it's made of gossamer. The massive metal and leather backpack doesn't seem to slow the creature at all. From behind Skull Chewer come another two, the last one backing its way into the empty pool, watching it for anyone following. As he watches with his breath held, Bain reflects that Artoli's instincts about this ambush were correct. This was the right place to set it, and what was once a pool of holy benediction is about to become a killing ground. "Ready, lad. The first one's about to hit the marker," Teg says, shifting his weight a little to draw a bead with his plasma gun. "Emperor, hear me. Give me strength," Bain mutters quietly, as he focuses his lasgun sight on the orc at the rear of the group. "Protect me as I kill for you." It is a well-practiced litany. The lead orc passes what looks like a nondescript piece of fire-blackened wood, carefully placed by Artoli to act as the marker to engage. As soon as it does, explosions erupt from both entrance and exit culverts, bringing the ceilings of both down, blocking off any escape from the pool. The Callous Jacks let loose from 5 separate alcoves high up round the shrine's perimeter. 3 orcs are dead within a second. 2 have their heads taken off by the Callous Jacks' precise, disciplined lasgun fire, and a third slumps to the ground, a burn hole in its chest. The remaining orcs, roaring in rage and surprise, either try to find cover against the piles of rubble Artoli and the Jacks deliberately placed, or simply fire up at their assailants, hoping to strike back before they are cut down. This desperate tactic unfortunately works for one orc carrying a rocket launcher. The creature manages to fire around into the alcove where troopers Howl and Castaigne are embedded, before its head is incinerated by lasgun fire. Bain watches in horror as the round disappears into the alcove, before a huge explosion erupts from it, peppering the shrine with chunks of stone and large splinters of wood. There's a sickening red mist amidst the explosion. He will never get the chance to ingratiate himself with Trooper Howl now. She has joined Ando Parant in the Emperor's good graces. Bain pumps 6 shots into the back of the orc at the rear of the pack, clearly cutting it in half. The other commandos are faring no better, for all are either dead or dying. 2 Callous Jacks have been lost, but the ambush has been a success. They did not die in vain. The only orc not injured now appears to be Skull Chewer. Perhaps it's the amount of armor it's wearing. Perhaps it's the creature's unnatural speed. Either way, the giant orc is unharmed thus far, and has now clambered out of the pool. Bain can hear its howls of rage even over the volleys of gunfire that take its remaining companions apart. Having run out of ammunition, Skull Chewer tosses its slugger aside and scoops up a large chunk of masonry with its power claw, before hurling it at the balcony Trasai and Atoli are shooting from. They both try to take cover as the stone crashes into the metal rail, releasing a shower of debris. The orc grabs another stone chunk, and this one flies straight at the balcony where Kitcher and Trooper Mosring are concealed. Mosring takes the stone in the chest, the impact throwing his limp body backwards. Kitcher is knocked aside by Mosring's flying body, putting him briefly out of action too. And then, Skullchewer starts climbing up the decaying shrined wall towards the balcony Trasai and Atoli are on. Lasgun bolts ricochet off its backpack as the others realize what's happening. None slow it down. Bain looks up to see Atoli slumped on the balcony's right-hand side, blood pouring from a cut on her forehead. Trasai is against the railing on the left, dazed but still moving. Incredibly, Skullchewer is up and over the railing in almost an instant, causing it to buckle under its weight. Even faster, it's on Trasai, picking up the injured trooper in his right hand as if it was a child's doll. The orc's mouth then opens impossibly wide, before its jaws come together around Trasai's head. This is where Elias Bain learns firsthand how Skullchewer got the nickname. He chokes back a vomit. The sound of crunching is clearly audible. "Holy terror!" Teg cries and fires his plasma gun again. Skullchewer's lower arm disappears in a shower of green flesh and red blood. The orc howls in pain and rage and topples back over the balcony, clutching the bloody stump. It still hits the floor on the shrine on its feet, though, and shoots Teg a look of pure hatred. Both he and Bain fire again, along with the remaining members of the team, but somehow Skullchewer is unscathed. It jumps back down into the shattered pool and smashes aside the debris filling the far culvert. "It's trying to escape!" Bain roars, scrambling to his feet. The drop from where he's positioned is over twice his height, but a steep scree of rubble descends just to his right, down onto the floor. It should be enough to break his fall. "Wait, lad!" Teg screams. "Stay together!" "It can't get away!" Bain shouts, steeling himself for the drop. He jumps, clutching the lasgun to his chest. The wind is torn from his lungs as his back slams into the pile of rubble. Then pain erupts in his calves and thighs as he hits the stone floor, his legs just about taking his weight. Grimacing at the shock of having to run after such a hard landing, Bain heads for the culvert, dropping down into the pool with another wince of pain. "You can't go after him alone!" Teg roars. "We have to regroup!" Bain pauses for a moment, considering this. Then his eye is drawn to Trasai's headless body up on the balcony. Blood cascades down the wall below it. Atoli remains slumped over and motionless. "It has to pay for this. The Emperor demands it of me," he mutters to himself, as he watches Skullchewer's massive bulk disappearing into the shadows ahead. Ignoring Teg's continued commands, Bain takes off in pursuit of his quarry, determined to see its end. The power claw comes screaming towards Elias Bain's blood-soaked face, but again, thanks to the Emperor's grace and the amount of blood the orc has lost, his death is averted by the smallest of margins. Bain only has to jerk his head back a couple of inches to avoid the wild blows Skullchewer is attempting to land. The orc's obsession with trying to crush his skull is a flawed tactic that the trooper intends to punish. He fires off a few more shots, these ones mostly peppering the thick plate of armor covering Skullchewer's left leg. One hits home above it, though, slamming into the green meat of its ribcage. The orc roars in pain and immediately backs away, giving Bain time to catch his breath. Inexplicably, Skullchewer then starts stomping around in an angry circle. "Oh, you was a right little git," it barks, power claw waving in Bain's general direction. "Never had humies do this to me before." It lifts up the gory stump of its right arm. "Look at this! Bleeding arm's gone! Good arm that was! Strong!" Bain spits orc blood from his mouth. "Come back over here and I'll take the other arm, you piece of Xenos filth!" he growls. That has the desired effect. Skullchewer bellows with such an intensity it knocks dirt from the walls surrounding them. And then it's coming at Bain again, Powerclaw aimed right at his head once more, which is exactly what the young trooper wants. Keep it off balance, keep it enraged, punish it for its stupidity. and payback for all the guardsmen it's slaughtered, all the heads it's ripped from shoulders, all the nightmares it's given the survivors. Bain neatly dodges the flailing attempt at decapitation and fires another volley. The shots all miss. The Skull Chewer moves swiftly out of the firing line. It seems to have caught on to Bain's strategy. It won't fall for the same move again. It's far too smart for that. This is no surprise. A reputation as horrifying as Skull Chewers is not earned without a great deal of cunning. A monster like this doesn't get to tear the heads off so many Imperial Guardsmen without knowing how to fight, how to survive. That's why the Callous Jacks were sent in to kill Skull Chewer, because nobody else could. "Oh, you're a tricksy one, ain't ya?" Skull Chewer roars, with not a small amount of amusement, as it crashes back against the wall of the defile. This gives Bain another much-needed moment to catch his breath. "Dodging and diving like that," the orc continues, waving the power claw about. "Most of you humies just freeze up all timid-like when I comes at 'em. I have nothing to fear from you," Bain spits, levelling his gun at Skull Chewer's head. The orc laughs. "Ha! Is that right, little humie? Oh, what makes you so brave when all your puny mates is so scared of me? Ain't you scared of me, humie? 'Cause you should be. I do not fear you, because I have his grace with me," Bain says in response, voice flat and steady. Skull Chewer actually looks quite impressed by this, giving Bain a slow and deliberate nod of approval. It's a disturbingly intelligent gesture that belies just how dangerous and unpredictable this orc really is. "The boss emperor," it says, lips curling in a sneer. "The god emperor of mankind," Bain corrects with a growl. Skull Chewer then does something very disconcerting. It spreads its arms wide, causing blood to fountain even harder from the truncated one. It's a wonder the thing is still standing. The orc looks skyward past the side of the defile. "Yeah, the boss emperor protects, right?" "Exactly," Bain replies, adamant. He can't help but follow the creature's gaze up to the ragged slash of grey leaden sky that can be seen beyond the top of the crevasse. A brief bright flash of orange light causes the underside of the clouds to glow for a second, followed immediately by a muffled explosion. A reminder that the war is still going on all around them. With the end of the power claw, Skull Chewer scratches its long, crooked nose thoughtfully. "Seems like the boss emperor didn't do a good job protecting all your little human mates though, eh? The ones I ate." The mocking tone in his voice is enraging. "Quiet, you Xenos scum!" Bain spits, firing a wild shot at the creature that bounces harmlessly off its metal skull plate. "Ha ha ha ha!" Skull Chewer laughs, ignoring this. "Maybe they didn't pray hard enough, eh? I said quiet!" Bain snaps and fires again. This second shot tears through the orc's shoulder, spattering the ravine wall behind it with a gout of red-black blood. Inexplicably, Skull Chewer keeps laughing. "Or maybe he didn't think those humies was worth saving," it cackles. "Do you think you's worth saving, little humie? Do you pray hard enough?" "Shut up!" Bain roars, incensed at the orc's words. In his rage, the trooper does not see the power claw close round the rock lying on the ground right next to Skull Chewer. Not until it is too late. With a violent underhand cast, the orc throws the rock, striking Bain square in the chest. His flak armor takes some of the blow, but he feels and hears something snap inside him. He staggers backwards, his breath suddenly ragged and agonizing. Closing the gap between them, Skull Chewer slaps the lasgun from Bain's hand, sending it flying into the shadows at the back of the crevice. Bain rolls desperately to his right, trying to get out from under the orc's massive bulk. Ignoring the pain in his chest, he draws his combat knife from the sheath on his right leg. It is a small and pathetic thing when faced with Urgrish Skull Chewer, but it is the only weapon he has left to fight with. "Stop rolling round like that!" Skull Chewer barks, sounding quite indignant. "Stand still so I can crump ya!" It lumbers back at him, The frightening speed it's displayed up to now has thankfully evaporated. Finally, the blood loss is taking a toll. Bain offers a small prayer of thanks, both to the Emperor's grace and Muldrin Tegg's accuracy with a plasma gun, before rolling again, this time slashing at Skullchewer's gut as he passes under the orc. The wound the knife creates is small, but it isn't meant to cause damage. Bain's only chance is to keep his enormous enemy angry and off balance. "You git!" it exclaims, looking down at the small notch in its abdomen. Once more the orc tries to lunge at Bain, and once more the trooper leaps out of the way. This is a dance he is happy to keep up for as long as is necessary. This time he sides left, stabbing the knife into the orc's shoulder, causing it to grunt in pain. With each slash and strike, Bain's confidence grows. Skullchewer is slowing, growing weaker while Bain grows stronger with every stab. The pain in his chest is gone, the ache in his legs has disappeared, because he has become an instrument of the God Emperor's purpose, his divine will. Bain is here in this dark and hellish place, bringing the Emperor's light in the only way he can, by bringing pain to his enemies, by bringing death. Eventually. The last cut he makes is across Skullchewer's coarse cheek. It's acceptably deep. Rivulets of blood flow from the gash. Another lunge, another dodge, another cut, all drawing more and more blood. Bain is waiting for the right opening. It will come, he knows it will. Skullchewer totters back, reeling from the last slash made to its right thigh. Its enormous maw gapes open in pain and frustration. This is the opening Bain thinks he needs. He leaps towards the orc, grabbing hold of the thick leather strap that crosses its chest, and pulls himself up in preparation to strike the coup de grace. Righteous zeal fills Bain's eyes as he brings his arm back and screams his God Emperor's name to the heavens. This kill is his repayment for all the blades, bullets, and power claws that have been turned aside. This is his act of devotion. The knife plunges towards Skullchewer's open maw, meeting no resistance, and the blade punctures the back of its throat in what should be a killing blow. To a human. Maybe even to a smaller orc. But this is Urgrish Skullchewer, an orc so large it can bite human heads off with ease. Bain realizes his error too late, and tries to draw his hand back out of Skullchewer's cavernous mouth before the orc can react. But react it does, bringing its jaws together with a sickening crunch. Bain falls away, or rather, most of him does. The 3 largest fingers of his right hand stay in the orc's mouth, as does his knife. Blood jets from the wound. He clutches at his hand in horror and disbelief, watching the thumb and remaining little finger shake like orphaned children. He's never been wounded before, never been hurt. The Emperor has always shielded him. Bain has been his faithful servant. Has he done something wrong? Has he been abandoned? As the physical and mental shock threatens to overwhelm him, Bain looks up from his torn hand to see that Skullchewer is coughing hard, and then, with a retching sound that the trooper will forever hear in his nightmares, the orc vomits up a combination of blood, bile, and the trooper's combat knife. Panic rises in Bain's chest as the world starts to go grey at the edges. There's too much pain and too much blood. To stave off the horrible sensation, he flexes what remains of his right hand, sending a lightning bolt of agony up his arm. Then he tries to stumble away from Skullchewer before it can shake off this latest injury. The orc is used to this kind of physical abuse, living in a world of constant threat and violence, perpetrated by friend and foe alike. Its resilience is horrific. And in that moment, Elias Bain realizes at last, he is doomed. The power claw comes whistling towards him for the final time, but instead of smashing his head to a pulp, it clamps around his waist and lifts him into the air. Absolute terror fills Bain as he realizes what's about to happen. Skullchewer is laughing again as it brings him closer to its blood-soaked mouth. All the young trooper wants to do now is pray for salvation, but he is no longer sure that the God Emperor is listening. Skullchewer's mouth opens even wider, and then a blinding plasma blast removes the orc's entire left arm at the shoulder. Bain drops to the ground, dazed, terrified, and screaming in agony. Skullchewer does exactly the same. The blood doesn't just flow from it now, it erupts. As the orc's massive weight hits the ground with a heavy thud, gore sprays from the fresh stump, soaking the walls of the defile. Its legs thrash in impotent rage, and its screams are just as violent. Bain pushes himself away, desperately looking for where the boss that saved his life came from. Above, the square form of Muldrin Teg is silhouetted against the leaden sky. "Get away from it, boy!" Teg commands, and this time, Bain is more than happy to obey. He backs up against the wall of the defile, watching Skullchewer warily, who, unbelievably, sits back up. How? How in the name of the Golden Throne can it do this? "Just die!" Bain screams, instantly feeling a measure of disgust at how petulant and terrified he sounds. Above and around him, he can hear the voices of the other Callous Jacks. They're coming to his rescue, whether he deserves it or not. "Die!" he screams again at the seemingly immortal orc, who starts laughing again. Blood is sheeting down from its left-hand side and continuing to ooze down its right. All the cuts and slashes Bain has made with his knife add to the laughing, gore-stained spectacle. Bain rises unsteadily to his feet and stumbles forward. He let his own ruined right hand fly out to his side, adding his own blood to the fountain erupting from Skullchewer. With his left hand, he gathers up the combat knife and descends upon the orc with a feral growl, knocking the creature onto its back once more. Bain then climbs onto Skullchewer's chest and starts to stab the combat knife into its face over and over and over again. He screams as he does this, a guttural roar of defiance and indignation. The knife blade rises and falls, rises and falls. Every stroke a frantic prayer to the god Emperor for the return of his favor. Every thrust a promise that Bain will do better, do more, kill more. The badly injured trooper doesn't know how long he is there, hacking at Skullchewer's face, before Teg manages to pull him off. But by the time he's done, the orc is definitely dead. Not even a monster of its stature can survive without a face. "Easy, lad," Teg says. "Easy." Bain tries to speak. He tries to say sorry. He tries to tell Teg that he only wanted to do what was right, what was expected of him. But the world is going grey again. This time, Elias Bain does not have the fight in him to resist. As the darkness swallows him, all he can hear is the mocking laughter of the monstrous orc, and all he can feel is the agony pulsing from his ruined right hand that reaches right into his heart and soul. It is the unbearable pain of knowing that, despite his part in ending the cruelty of Urgrus Skullchewer, the god Emperor has forsaken him. The Chronicles of Bain, Part 2 of 5, The Hole, by Neil Andrew Miller. Elias Bain, veteran of the Callous Jacks, faces a new kind of challenge. "Throne, damn it," Elias Bain mutters, his breath instantly crystallizing in the frigid air. He has to stop what he's doing just for a moment. The last thing he needs while trying to set a demolition charge is intense pain clouding his judgment. He looks down at where the flesh of his right hand ends and the 3 augmetic fingers begin, across the top of his palm, and wills the throb to subside, as he has been forced to do many times in the last 2 years. He doesn't know whether the pain is caused by the poor quality of the work carried out on him, or if it is all in his head. But he counts his blessings. At least he has a hand that functions, even if it hurts at the most inopportune moments. This time, the pain recedes after only a few seconds, allowing him to return his attention to the chrono display on top of the demolition charge he's just placed. This is delicate work. He can't put any pressure on the charge maglocked to the side of the ammo crate. The olive-drab box sits at the bottom of the towering snow-covered pile, and one wrong move could cause the entire thing to slide. Bain most certainly does not want to die in an avalanche of wasted Imperial ammunition. It would be an ignoble death. It would be an ignoble end for a member of the Callous Jacks. "How are you doing, Elias?" The urgency in Teg's voice makes him jump. "Time is not on our side here," the corporal tells him. "You need to get a move on." Bain curses again, knowing he should have turned the volume down on his helmet's vox receiver. "I'm fine, old man," he replies, heart pounding. "This old man would have had that charge set by now." "I doubt it. Not with your eyes." Bain rotates the tiny dial on the side of the display to set it at the minute mark. That will give him enough time to find cover, over by the enormous excavators parked at the southern end of the quarry. "I could shoot you from here, you know," Teg says conversationally. "Even at this distance, this rifle has the range on it." "Psst, more chance of the God Emperor himself appearing and making you a saint." There's a crackle of vox static on the line. "If you two are quite finished," Sergeant Artoli says, in her usual exasperated manner, "the orcs could get here any moment." "Sorry, Sarge," Teg replies, affecting the tone of fulsome apology. "I'll give Skullchewer's Bain the silent respect and admiration he deserves, while he works for the further glory of the Imperium of Man." Bain grits his teeth, but also suppresses a smile. "I've told you not to call me that, and you did most of the work back then with your plasma gun, from what I recall." He pauses for a moment, then clicks the bead on the side of the chrono. "It's armed." "Good lad. Now, get the hell out of there," Tig demands. Bain doesn't need telling twice. He gets up and sprints across the snow-packed quarry floor towards the largest excavator. It should provide him with the right amount of cover. The stolen pile of ammo is mostly bolter rounds and las packs, according to the intel. The explosion won't be that impressive. This is the fourth of these stockpiles the Callous Jacks have been forced to destroy in the Imperium's hasty retreat from this battlefield. The general made it very clear he didn't want any militarum equipment falling into orc hands, especially not ammunition. It's a waste, and a task deeply beneath the Jacks, but it's a necessary one, according to the general. Although, as far as Bain is concerned, the orcs always seem to have an inexhaustible supply of ammunition, so he's not so sure they'd care about these stockpiles at all. He lets out a long frozen stream of breath as he huddles behind the excavator. The cold mining world of Ankar Majoris is one of the worst planets he's ever visited, and he will be delighted to leave. The people here are about as welcoming as the climate. The only reason the world is even settled lies in the gigantic boreholes that pockmark its surface. Bain still doesn't know what they mine. Not that he cares. He's on Ankar Majoris to kill orcs and destroy wasted ammunition. When it comes, the explosion is even smaller than he predicted, a light crump that barely echoes around the enormous deep-sided quarry. He can probably go and warm himself next to a lingering fire before double-timing it back to Teg's position at the southern end. Therefore, it's with some surprise that he hears Artoli's voice come across the vox receiver again, this time laced with absolute panic. "Bain, get out of there!" "Why, Sarge?" "Intel was wrong. It wasn't just ammo rounds. The Auspex shows infernals in there. They're cooking off." Utter terror strikes Bain in an instant. Infernals. Promethium bombs used to obliterate everything in a storm of hellfire that reaches to the very heavens. He'd seen them used twice in this conflict, from a great distance that required him to shield his eyes nonetheless. Bain starts to sprint back towards where Teg is stationed at the lip of the quarry. If he can get up and over the edge, he should be protected from the enormous blast. "It's too far! Go north, lad!" Teg exclaims. "Get down into the mine shaft!" Bain doesn't reply. He just spins around, sending snow and gravel flying into the air, and starts to run back towards the north end of the quarry. It terminates there in a massive mine shaft, bored deep down into the substrata. The cold air burns Bain's lungs as he sprints desperately towards it. His hurried footfalls start to clang loudly as the snowy earth of the quarry floor gives way to the plasteel plate that surrounds the mine shaft. Parked off to one side of the gigantic hole is an equally huge boring machine, with its arms held aloft and the drill bit used to create the mine shaft hanging in the cold air. Next to that is a tall, thin plasteel observation tower, which drops down into the shaft, allowing access to it via a staircase. If he can get down those stairs, he might have a chance of surviving. A whistling sound passes his left ear. It is the unmistakable high-pitched whine of projectile fire. Bain looks up to see that, on the other side of the hole, a shambling crew of orcs had come into view from behind a large pile of rubble. "Oh, throne no!" Bain exclaims. Their timing borders on the absurd. He pushed his pace even harder now, desperately trying to reach the dubious cover provided by the tower. Never mind the infernals. The barrage of fire coming from the orc squad is more than enough to shred him to pieces. He reaches the staircase at a dead run and jumps the entire first flight of steps, stumbling as he hits the gangway below. Wrenching himself right to avoid the onslaught, Bain speeds down the stairs, snaking through the tower, gunfire ricocheting around him. A couple of flights below, the mine shaft is covered almost entirely by metal grate. A wide elevator shaft sits at the center of this, though the lift itself is nowhere to be seen. Being this far below the top of the hole will hopefully offer the protection Bain needs from the blast, but not from those damned orcs. He looks up again to see that one of the creatures is standing right at the lip of the mine shaft, aiming at him with a long-range weapon equipped with a flared muzzle. It's got him dead in its sights. It's at this point the infernals finally detonate. Bain's senses barely have time to register the enormity of the explosion before a wall of fire envelops the top of the mine shaft. He hits the grating at the bottom of the tower and is immediately thrown onto his back by the enormous percussive force. An apocalyptic roar of crunching, shearing metal begins, and Bain stares up in horror to see that the boring machine, hit side-on by the blast wave, has started to topple into the mine shaft. Scrambling to his feet, Bain runs towards the other end of the platform, a futile final effort if that boring machine drops into the hole. The plasteel tower is bent like paper by the weight of the machine pushing against it, but it saves Elias Bain's life. The tower crashes across the mine shaft, stopping the borer from falling further into the hole. The force of this tumult throws him off his feet again. The noise is deafening. All he can do is assume the fetal position, with his hands over his ears as the world shakes itself to pieces. Any second now, the platform could give way. Beneath the grate, darkness swallows the bottom of the shaft. The fall will be long, if and when it comes. Frozen in terror, Bain remains locked in place as the violent rending continues. Eventually, though, he notices that the screech of protesting metal has started to subside. He risks a glance upwards and immediately wishes he hadn't. The boring machine now rests precariously across the hole, blocking out almost all of the grim, feeble sunlight provided by the White Dwarf star Ankar Majoris revolves around. The firestorm has clearly passed, though. Bain can hear creaking metal and the clatter of rock fall continuing, but the platform has stopped shaking, allowing him to climb back to his feet. It feels incredibly disconcerting to have that amount of heavy machinery resting right above his head, but at least he can think now. The first thing Bain tries is his Vox transmitter. He's entirely unsurprised to see that it's broken. Nothing but static. Teg and Artoli may have survived the blast, or they may not. He has no way of finding out. The staircase that brought him down here is completely destroyed, offering no way to climb out. He's definitely trapped. "Ah, my zogging leg!" a bestial voice roars. Bain's head snaps around and he looks across the platform to see that the orc who was standing at the lip of the mineshaft is alive and rolling around like a landed fish. Its entire left leg is gone. It's also quite severely burned. The rifle it was aiming at Bain before the explosion lies a scant few yards away. Realizing the danger of the situation in an instant, Bain starts to run at the weapon. The sound of his footfalls alerts the orc to his presence, forcing the creature out of its miserable wailing. "Shoo me!" it screeches, and starts to claw its way towards the rifle. Bain is faster, but the orc is closer. They reach the rifle at the same time. Bain's left hand grabs it by the stock, while the orc takes hold of the barrel. The creature is much stronger, so as it pulls the gun towards itself, it sends Bain flying around in a wide arc. If he lets go now, he's dead. His right hand closes over the trigger guard, and Bain is instantly grateful for the extra strength his painful augmentic fingers provide. The orc tries to shake the gun as hard as it can, hoping to dislodge the trooper. If Bain had 2 human hands, this tactic might have worked, but Urgrish Skullchewer's last gift is his salvation. Their combined inertia pulls the rifle around so the muzzle is pointed right at the orc's face. Bain slides his finger over the trigger and pulls. The right side of the orc's head explodes in a crescent of burned meat and boiling blood. The concussive blast sends the creaking metal above into a loud frenzy. His terror heightened by the cacophony, and expecting the whole damned lot to fall onto him at any moment, Bain gingerly places the rifle back on the grating and shuffles over to the side of the hole. His eyes remained fixed on the metallic bulk above him until the shuddering and screeching subsided once more. As they do, he's able to take a few long, deep breaths. For the time being, it looks like he's safe, but still undeniably trapped. "Hey!" Bain calls out, his voice echoing around the hole. This is pointless, of course. Anything alive up there would have been vaporized by the Promethean blast. "Hey!" he shouts again anyway, this time loud enough to hurt his throat. But when he gets no answer, Bain slowly slides down the side of the hole and slumps against it. He's suddenly overwhelmed with exhaustion. The orc's remaining foot starts to twitch, drumming lightly on the plasteel grating. Even that sounds loud now in the confines of the gloomy mineshaft. Bain stares up at the small sliver of cold, dark blue sky he can see between the edge of the hole and the bulk of the boring machine. It's starting to get dark. Will they send anyone out to find him? Will Teg or Artole try, if they are alive? This entire area was abandoned by Imperial forces days ago, in the rush to get away from the orc advance. He's much more likely to eventually draw the enemy's attention if he keeps calling out. "My Emperor, if you are there, please help me. Let me survive this." He doesn't expect an answer. Bain closes his eyes and takes another deep breath. As the orc's foot stops twitching, silence descends. Apart from the occasional distressing creak of metal and the sound of a mournful wind blowing across the top of the hole. Bain starts awake. It is pitch black now. It is also much colder. He climbs wearily to his feet and starts to pace across the grating in a small, cautious circle to warm himself. There's an elevator shaft not far away that it will be very easy to fall through in this gloom. The drop in temperature is survivable thanks to his uniform's thick winter lining, but if the air gets any colder, he could be in serious trouble. Bain is grateful that it's summer on Ankar Majoris. If it were winter, he would have already frozen to death. But even the summer can be deathly cold on some nights. He has to get out of here. Maybe when it's light, I can look around a little more, he says out loud, remembering his survival training about how to stay sane and logical when in isolation. Putting thoughts into words and words into action can save a man's mind. Yes, that's it. When it's light, I can think about a way to escape, he continues. Get the lie of the land, make some sort of plan. Bain takes a cold, deep breath. I am a Callous Jack for throne's sake. There's nothing I can't overcome if I stay focused. This optimism lasts as long as it takes for that light to return some 3 hours later. As it does, Bain is able to undertake his survey, and none of what he sees is good. The sides of the shaft are smooth, hard rock, so hard, in fact, that he's unable to chip more than a tiny amount of it away with a shard of metal that fell from the crumpled tower. There is a section of the twisted staircase that hangs from above, but even that is 10 feet above his head. And even if he could reach it, it might bring everything crashing down if he tried to climb it. The boring machine has not moved since it came to rest during the Prometheum explosion, but there is almost constant low groaning and creaking of metal that suggests that this could change at any moment. It might only take a strong wind on the surface to dislodge it, and he would be crushed. There is simply no way out. This means that Bain's only recourse is to wait and hope that Teg and Artoli did survive, and that at some point they will come looking, before he dies of cold, or possibly thirst. Bain decides the best thing he can do is pray to the God Emperor again, and keep praying until he gets some sort of answer. Looking down at his right hand, which has started to throb once again, he comes to the conclusion that he may be waiting a very long time. Ever since his confrontation with Urgrish Skullchewer, Bain has felt neither the Emperor's presence nor his protection from harm. The amount of scars that now pepper his body attest to the latter. "You are my salvation and my creed," Bain mumbles. "You are my warmth and my strength. Render unto me the power to be your hand. Create in me the hate I need to rise to glory. Bring forth in me the rage that will set me free." It's been 3 days. "You are my salvation and my creed," he repeats in the same low, tremulous voice. Teg and Artoli are dead, or have given up on him. Bain has heard nothing from above. The war has left him behind. His world has now reduced to the sound of creaking metal and the constant fear of that creaking becoming a scream. It's been snowing, and that is probably the only reason he is still alive. Partly because he's been able to slake his thirst by collecting the snow melt in his helmet, but also because the snow clogs a fair proportion of the small gap it falls through, preventing the icy air from getting to him. It's certainly cold, but not life-threatening. The hunger is a different matter. Imperial rations are awful, a combination of unidentifiable meat and grey nutrient paste, barely fit for human consumption, but Bain would gorge himself on them at this point if only he hadn't left his ration pack on the staging camp. The dull, pulsing pain in his hand is almost constant now, but the abstract pain in his stomach is even worse. He stopped moving around too much. It increases that pain immeasurably. So, Bain just sits in a cross-legged slump, repeating all the litanies to the God Emperor that he has learned in a life that feels like it is only a scant amount of time left. "A spiritu dominatus domine libera nos," he intones. "From the light and the tempest our Emperor delivers. From plague, temptation, and death, our Emperor delivers us." Bain trails off and looks down at the crude orc firearm in his lap. One shot. One pull of the trigger. Bain could end this nightmare right now by doing something he has done 1,000 times before. Something as natural as breathing, as easy as speaking. That's all it would take. That would bring him the deliverance he craves. Let this crude, awful weapon speak. Just one shot, but not aimed at himself, at the part of the tower stanchion that is already buckled and weak. That would do it. The borer would drop then. Everything would fall into the hole, and in moments he would be free. He could end this torment in a cacophony of sound and fury that someone, somewhere, may notice. Then the passing of Elias Bain may make some impression on the world. He deserved that at least. No one is coming to save you, Bain murmurs. The Emperor will not save you. He is alone in the near silence, with only his futile prayers and the gentle sound of creaking metal. He is alone. Make that metal cry, Elias. Make it scream. Better that than to waste away in this damned hole like a little pathetic thing. Go on, Elias. Pull the trigger. Pull it. The gun shakes violently in his hand for a few moments before it drops to the grating with a loud clang. He can't do it. A little pathetic thing indeed. You are my salvation. Yes, you are. I will do anything for you. Anything for your glory. I am just so hungry, my Emperor. I wish I wasn't. If I had a full belly, I could fight again, kill the Xenos, earn your protection once more. The way it was before Skull Chewer. If you would just fill my belly, make the hole in it go away. Bain shivers. He licks his dry, chapped lips. He presses his left thumb into his right palm hard to see if the numbness has gone. It has not. He brings his legs up to his chest to try to preserve some warmth. He does not look at the orc. He does not think about the orc. It does not matter. It means nothing to him. It is simply the corpse of his enemy. Just one of dozens he has created, back in the times when his belly was full and the cold didn't seep into his bones the way it does now. The same cold that will have stopped the corpse from rotting, kept it fresh. Fresh enough, anyway. Do not look at the orc. Do not think about the roar in your stomach, the rage in it, the pain. It does not matter. Bain knows he is not an animal. He will not act like one. If needs be, he can simply lie here and die. Or he can pick up the rifle and do the thing he should have done days ago, weeks ago. It won't be rotten. It will suffice. There's enough meat there too. No! Bain screams in a cracked, harsh voice that barely makes a sound out in the world, but is a firestorm in his head. He stares at it, held between the augmented fingers of his right hand. He cannot feel how cold it is, but can see how disgusting it looks. A dull pink lump of organic matter with straciation of green, black and yellow running through it. Bain brings it to his mouth. He says a prayer. He isn't sure if there's anything in the universe left listening to him. The chunk of flesh sits on his tongue like a benediction towards defeat, a wafer of shame. He tries to chew. The subsequent dry heaves take an hour to settle. Another chunk. This one taken from lower down. This one carved out with the shard of rusty metal. Better than trying to pull something from what remains of the head again. That was a mistake. That was where he went wrong. Lower down is better. Lower down looks more like meat. Ignore that it's green on the outside. It is meat, nothing more. Bain tries to chew, and he manages to swallow. The dry heaves only last a few minutes this time. He has to start on the gut now. The right thigh is gone. Bain had to stop cutting when he got down to the bone, because he didn't want to risk chipping the relatively sharp edge he'd managed to create on his metal shard. He doesn't want to eat from the gut. The biology of an orc is a strange and disgusting thing. He'd seen enough of their dismantled corpses on the battlefield to know. But he has no choice. He has to keep eating in order to keep his strength up, and that's because he heard something important yesterday, or maybe the day before. He can't really remember. The sound of bombardment. The glorious sound of Imperial ordnance close by. That could mean the tide of battle had turned again. The Imperium's forces might have rallied and are now pushing the enemy back across the battlefield. Could. Might. It is better than nothing. Better than lying here and waiting to die like a coward who can't bring himself to pull a trigger. So, he must keep eating. Bain prays as he eats now. It feels right for some reason. Every time he consumes another piece of this half-frozen monster, he babbles a few words at the Emperor, hoping he'll see his shame and absolve him of it. Bain's chewing has become a religious observance, a gesture of defiance at an enemy that has consumed his life. He eats the orc because it sends a message, a polemic to all of its kind that he will not be defeated, that he will live so he can kill more of them. He will prevail and survive, just as humanity itself will prevail and survive against the whole orc species. Every hard mouthful of flesh he chews, every thin strand of sinew he pulls from his teeth, every wretch and dry heave he still endures, they are a promise to the orcs, to the Callous Jacks, and to the Emperor. He will live. So damn you all, he will live. The second time Bain hears the sound of bombardment, it is closer than before. He cannot fathom how long it has been since the first time he heard it, but the orc is nearly stripped to the bone now. His metal shard is half the size it was when he found it. Its edge is wickedly keen, for all the time he spent running it across the rock wall. His helmet is rusting from all the snow melt it has collected. His beard is a thin, straggled mess, and his teeth feel loose in his head. Time is nothing anymore. An abstract, strange concept that only matters to whatever still exists outside the Hall. Where once it was complicated and full of fury, Bain's universe is now a simple, quiet place. So, the sounds of the bombardment do not fill him with mindless hope this time. Instead, he's a ball of terror at what they may herald. His death, or maybe his escape. He's not sure which he wants anymore. Go away, he mutters. Leave me alone. The noise refuses to cooperate. I said go away, he mumbles again, before falling into a sleep full of nightmares and promises. Bain is awoken by some more shelling. This time it sounds like it is almost on top of him. He is stunned to look up at the narrow gap he sees the world through and witness a marauder flying overhead. The roar of its engines is perfectly audible and perfectly alien. It is not the sound of gentle creaking metal. It is an angry, brutal thing, and it is terrifying. No, leave me alone, he screams, gathering his knees close to his chest and squeezing his eyes shut. The bombardment continues for the next few hours. Bain's screams turn hoarse. By the time the walls of the hall start to shudder under the impact of the shelling, he has been struck dumb by terror. The boring machine, which has not moved an inch the entire time it was sat above him, finally starts to slide. The rending, tearing sound of plasteel, doing its best to destroy what's left of Bain's sanity. But the machine does not crash through the framework of the tower the way he thought it would. The way his mind's eye had played the scenario out every time he'd aimed the orc gun at the point of weakness and failed to pull the trigger. Instead, it starts to drop in incremental jolts, the tortured metal giving way with surprising reluctance. As metal cacophony grows louder, Bain scurries over to the remains of the orc to protect what's left. He pulls it aside against the rock wall, as far as possible from where the bulk of the borer is dropping further and further into the hole. And then it grinds to a halt. Bain hears marauders continue to roar overhead, but only because the rending of metal around him has ceased. And things are different now. The hole has changed. His universe has been altered beyond all comprehension. The bulk of the borer is now barely 8 feet above the metal grating he has walked gingerly around for what feels like centuries. The tower, still impossibly providing the hulking mass some support, now actually touches the grating in several places. He can reach it. He can climb it. No, he says. to himself, to the orc, to the hole, to the Callous Jacks, and to the God Emperor. "But yes, Elias," one of them replies. He is not sure which. "You shall endure. You shall return to the fury above. You will live." "I will live," Bain repeats reluctantly. "I am a Callous Jack, and I will live." His voice grows stronger. "I am a Cadian, and I will live. I am a servant of the God Emperor, and I will live." Taking a deeper, cleaner breath than he has managed in a very long time, he leaves the orc behind and stumbles towards the twisted metal remains of the tower to begin his painful ascent. As Bain clambers on, it groans in protest. He does not care. He is committed now. He will either rise or he will fall. There will be no more of this purgatory, no more of this limbo. It takes an age for him to ascend, because he is weak, tired, and functioning with a brain starved of sense, but he is also a far thinner, lighter man than the one who fell into the hole all that time ago. The tower holds. Nearing the top, it becomes harder for him to negotiate his way between the jagged, twisted spurs of steel. There is a heart-stopping moment when he has to walk across a thick shard of metal unattached at one end. It bounces under his fragile weight, threatening to snap at any moment. Would he survive the 20-foot plunge back to the grating? He doubts it very much. But it does not break, and Bain's emotions are strangely ambiguous about that as he negotiates his way past the boring machine and emerges onto a wasteland he thought he would never see again. The once grey quarry is now blasted black. There's a glassy quality to everything around him that speaks to the devastating power of the Prometheum explosions. Nothing is left standing. The only thing of any height or weight remaining is a boring machine, which Bain has trouble looking at because his eyes are blurred with tears. Suddenly, the violent urge to strike the damn thing hits him. He does so, sending a clanging sound echoing around the quarry as his augmetic fingers pound against the blackened metal. Then, Bain tries to push the borer into the hole. It is a strange and futile gesture, but he wants to obliterate that place. He wants to destroy it. His home for so long, his place of shame and fear and silence and dishonor. Of course, the boring machine does not move. Whether it ever will again will depend on the scale of the marauder bombardment, not the efforts of one starved and crazed Cadian shock trooper. Bain turns away from the borer and the hole and looks southwards, to where Teg and Artoli had been. That's the way he will go. He then makes the mistake of looking up at the sky for the first time, and terror overwhelms him immediately. He is used to a sliver of the thing, viewed from a small tear in the fabric of his universe, but now the sky is huge, a cold blue dome that stretches off into infinity, into a galaxy full of unimaginable horror. He has traded one massive threatening weight above his head for another, and this new one comes with the potential for death to rain down at any moment from the marauder bombers that freed him from his confines. Bain starts to hurry southwards, not looking up at the awful sky again. By the time he crests the quarry's lip an hour later and sees the battlefield spread out below him, he is exhausted. The twisted hulks of Imperial tanks and Orc battle wagons litter the barren landscape of Ankar Majoris for as far as he can see. Turning north, he looks to where the battle still rages. The orange bursts of explosions easily visible on the near horizon, accompanied by the muffled roars of orcs and humans obliterating one another. For some reason Elias Bain is hard-pressed to recall. He turns from the conflict and starts to walk southwards again. That's the way Teg and Artoli went. That's where the Callous Jacks went. Is he still one of them? Who knows? He was probably registered as lost in action a long time ago, and they may be a world away from him now. But if he can, he will find them. And they'll understand, won't they? Why he did it. What he had to do to survive. They would have done the same. Any Callous Jack would. "You'll understand," he says to himself as he passes by the hollowed-out remains of Alim and Ras. "I did what I had to do. I ate it to survive." "Stop right there!" The voice is loud and strong. For a moment, Bain wonders how he could possibly sound anything like that, but then realizes it wasn't him speaking. He is not alone. "Run! Get away! Go back! Back to the hole!" Bain has to stop himself from fleeing. It takes all his willpower. The same willpower that forced all that orc flesh down his throat. He puts his hands in the air and turns to see a squad of Astra Militarum soldiers stalking towards him with their guns raised. He does not recognize their regiment. They are not Cadian. "I am Trooper Elias Bain of the Cadian 96th. Don't shoot!" he cries, and is dismayed at how hoarse and reedy his voice sounds. "The 96th?" the lead soldier says, lowering his gun. He has no need for it. Bain offers no threat. The soldier is a sergeant, by the looks of the ranking stripes on his shoulder. "Yes," Bain replies. "I've been trapped in a mine shaft after a promethium explosion." "By the Emperor," another one of the troopers says in a hushed tone, looking him up and down. "How long was I gone?" Bain asks. "Can you tell me?" The sergeant, wide-eyed and incredulous, swallows hard. "The 96th left Ankara Majoris approximately 60 Terran Standard days ago." Bain stares at him for a moment. 60 days. "No wonder I had to eat all of that orc," he tells the sergeant, and starts to laugh. By the time they evacuate him on a Valkyrie a few hours later, the laughter has given way to choked and shuddering tears. After several weeks of rigorous examination by men in uniforms he does not recognize, Bain is cleared of any Xenos taint and returned to the 96th. The Callous Jacks are pleased to have him back. Of course they are, but none of them can quite meet his gaze. Not even Muldrin Teg. The man they knew is not the same as the man they see before them now, because there's now the sound of creaking metal echoing in his mind, the taste of cold orc flesh on his tongue, and the quiet darkness of the hole forever shadowing his eyes. The Chronicles of Bain, Part 3. Glory Makes Us Fools, by Neil Andrew Miller. Who is more deadly, the orcs lurking ahead, or the glory-seeking commissar behind? The young soldier from the Montpellier Shields, 3rd Company, stares at Elias Bain with a mixture of awe and revulsion. "Ask, trooper," Bain says, not looking up from the blade of his combat knife as he sharpens it along the small sliver of whetstone. "Sergeant?" the boy replies, an obvious terror in his voice. Bain finally glances in his direction. God, Emperor, he looks so young, barely a baby out of swaddling. "Ask the question your friends have persuaded you to put to me," Bain demands, eyebrow arching. "Or did you pick lots to decide who got to be the lucky one?" The trooper swallows hard. "I lost at Emperor's tally," he replies. Bain suppresses the urge to laugh at his surprising honesty. "All right then, let's hear it," he says, sliding the knife back into the sheath on his chest plate and beckoning with both hands. The young soldier stands there for a moment, almost shivering with fear. They are in a warren of dark underhive tunnels, with orcs around every corner, and this new recruit is actually more scared of Elias Bain than he is of the enemy. Bain doesn't know whether to feel proud or shame about this. Did you? The boy stammers. You know. Come on, lad, spit it out. If you can't do this, how will you ever face down the monsters hiding in the dark? Did you really eat an orc, Sergeant? The trooper says it all in a rush, like he's ripping off a med plaster. Bain's eyes narrow, his gaze hardens. He fixes the raw recruit with a stare that is almost comically malevolent. Teg and Carlin struggle hard not to laugh from where they stand beside him. Bain knows he shouldn't play with a poor little lad like this, but he's annoyed that the Callous Jacks have been sent down here to rescue the boy's lost platoon along with their commissar. The young trooper manages to look even more terrified. Bain can't maintain eye contact. Some of it, Bain tells him, his voice level and quiet. Other bits I had to spit out, which is no word of a lie. The trooper goes a little green. This comes as no surprise. As far as he's concerned, he's been stared down by Skull Chewer's Bain, the Orc Eater himself, the man who coined both of those hyperbolic nicknames, which have spread throughout the regiment stuck on Haikar's doubt for the best part of a year. Surreptitiously elbows Bain in the ribs. Careful he doesn't piss himself, Teg mutters from one side of his mouth. The orcs will smell it. Bain ignored this and continues to stare at the rookie for a moment longer, before nodding his head in the direction of the boy's cohorts, who are huddled together by a rusting hulk of machinery that the Omnissiah would cry tears of holy oil to see so abandoned. Back you go, Bain tells him. Well done, lad. You've survived. The trooper actually nods with relief, as if he truly believes Bain would have killed him for his audacity, then scuttles back over to the rest of the children that Commissar Peter Malviot has dragged down into this deserted Stygian depths. Sergeant Bain! Sergeant Bain! A fresh voice pipes up from somewhere along the tunnel. The voice is reedy, weak, full of pompous self-importance and a surety of ignorance. Bain grunts in disgust and pushes himself away from the wall he's leaning against, coming to some sort of attention. Commissar, Bain says, trying as hard as he can to keep the disdain from his voice. Peter Malviot storms up to the Cadian and points at the remains of the small company of Montpellier shields that he hasn't managed to get killed yet. Are they resting enough now, Sergeant? Because we must press on. We must find and eradicate the Xenos menace. I'd imagine so, sir, Bain replies, the last word tasting almost as bad as the chunks of orc he had to spit out all those years ago. This is a child leading children, one barely out of the Schola Progenium, and granted too much power by men who should know better. When the Callous Jacks eventually stumbled on what was left of the company Malviot had insisted on bringing down into the Underhive, he'd already executed 2 of them, including his only remaining sergeant, and was about to kill a 3rd, all for having the temerity to suggest they await rescue, instead of getting even more lost in these sprawling dark warrens. The Commissar had looked almost disappointed to see Bain's kill team fanning out into the wide arterial junction that he turned into his own private killing floor. That was 3 hours ago, and since then they'd all been negotiating this maze of tunnels, dug throne knows when, under the dubious leadership of Peter Malviot and his lust for Xenos and glory. The oppressive gloom of the place, punctuated only by a few flickering wall-mounted lumens, is enough to drain anyone's strength, especially a company of men harangued into a pointless mission by a commissar out to prove himself to the galaxy. The 10 minutes of rest Bain has given the troopers was absolutely necessary. Malviot himself looked exhausted, not that he would admit to that. All right then, Sergeant, Malviot whines. I've coddled you and these men long enough. Let's get moving. He doesn't wait for Bain's reply, but instead marches back along the tunnel, head held high. The Callous Jacks, coddled. So damn it. Bain opens his mouth to reply, his brow knitted in fury. Teg's hand grips his forearm. Easy, Sergeant, he whispers. You might be leading the Jacks, but he's still a commissar and in charge of these men. Remember that. Just smile and do what you're told. Don't give him an excuse. You've got to get everyone out of this mess, and you know the way things work. You mouth off to him now, and he'll be trying to execute you next." Bain stares down the tunnel after the foppish little man and grinds his teeth. "I wish Min were here," he says to Teg. "She'd know how to handle him." "You're doing fine, lad," the Sixth Corporal replies. "Just keep a lid on that anger of yours. You don't want to lose any more of those fingers." The reference to Brain's rashness when he faced Urgrish Skullchewer brings him up short. Teg is right. He always is. Calm down. It doesn't matter. Just get everyone out of here. Bain takes a deep breath. "Guardsmen, on your feet!" he barks, pulling both his own troopers and Malviets back to attention. "Move out!" he commands, following the commissar with his last pistol drawn. The Jacks all fall into line right behind him, leaving the Montpellier shields to be pulled along behind. "Valentine," Bain says, looking back at the most experienced recon trooper he has. "Sarge," the man replied, jogging up to join him. "Take Garel and Renox forward and scope out what's ahead," Bain tells him. "Do it before Malviet marches us right into an ambush. Keep the Vox open, but on our private channel." Valentine nods, pokes a finger at the two junior members of the Jacks, and runs off up the tunnel with both of them. Malviet looks extremely put out when he gets overtaken and swivels around to face Bain. "Recon, sir," the sergeant calls out to the commissar, "making sure we're alert to any Xenos up ahead." One of Malviet's eyes twitches for a moment before he gives Bain a curt nod. "Excellent, Sergeant. Just what I'd expect." "Yes, sir," Bain replies, without a hint of anything other than blind obedience. Malviet turns back around again and continues his forward march, leaving Bain to thoroughly regret how his augmetic fingers have slightly buckled the grip of his las pistol, thanks to his barely contained anger. He looks down at the weapon with contempt. Such a flimsy little thing. He'd give anything to feel the weight of his las rifle in his hand again, but the Munitorum snatched it after his promotion. "Nicely done," Teg remarks. "You're learning, lad." "Not fast enough. They should have made you Sergeant Mull, not me," Bain grunts, sliding the damaged pistol back into its holster. "Ha! You're joking, right?" Teg chuckles. "I wasn't built to lead, lad, only to follow." His grin turns wicked, and occasionally offer a few pearls of the Emperor's wisdom. Besides, you being Sergeant was what Min wanted. Bain's eyes meet Teg's for a moment, before they both quickly turn back to look up the tunnel. It's been 4 months since they lost Min Artoli, the best sergeant the Callous Jacks have had since Jacon Elliger himself. Elias Bain scarcely feels like he is any kind of replacement. "Just get this lot out of here the best you can," he hears her voice telling him, in a much gentler tone than she'd probably have used in real life. "That's all I ever did. The best I could." The best he knows he can do is lick the commissar's boot a little and smile while he's doing it, and that doesn't sit well with him at all. Bain is lost in these morose and unhelpful thoughts for the next 10 minutes or so, until Garel comes over the Vox to tell him there's another junction up ahead with 3 routes to choose from. "There's some evidence that the Orcs have been down 2 of them at some point," he tells the sergeant. "The 3rd looks clear of 'em, but down here in all this muck and machinery, I can't give you much more than that." "Understood. Wait there until we reach you. Keep quiet when we do. I'll do the talking with Malviet." "Roger that, Sarge," Garel replies, sounding relieved. When the combined squads do reach the junction, Malviet immediately demands to know what's up ahead. Bain steps between the commissar and his recon troops. "Xenos sightings are evident in the 2 passages to the left and center, sir," he tells Malviet. "The 3rd on the right appears clear. I suggest that we take that way, so the exfiltration from the Underhive is achieved, as per Major Caerther's orders." The commissar's nose wrinkles in a way Bain finds infuriating. Major Caethar's orders were to clear Highcar's doubt of the Orc menace, Sergeant. I distinctly remember him saying so in a briefing you were not privy to." "That may have been the case," Bain replies in a level tone. "But my orders are more recent. General Hothian requires every man he can get his hands on for the push across the Sanhai Plains. All other command decisions have been superseded." The young commissar's face turns a disturbing shade of red. "I do not care about General Hothian's orders, Sergeant. I intend to carry out operation I outlined to Major Caethar, and nothing is going to stop me from doing so." His hand rested on the butt of his bolt pistol. "Is that understood?" Bain smiles for a microsecond. "Perfectly, Commissar." "Good. Then we will take whatever tunnel your man decrees is the most likely to contain an Orc presence." He looks past Bain to Garel. "Well, my man, which is it?" Garel hesitates to answer until Bain gives him a very brief nod of approval. "The left-hand path, sir," he tells Malviet. "But it's absolutely lousy with wreckage. Great opportunity to get caught in an Excellent," Malviet crows. "Then we will take that tunnel and take the fight back to the dreaded Xenos." He looks positively thrilled by this turn of events. They should be getting both squads out of this confusing maze, not seeking combat. The new recruits are tired, scared, and ill-equipped for this kind of underground warfare. In all the years he spent with the Callous Jacks, Bain has learned that there's a time to fight and a time to run. This is definitely the latter. But he can't leave these poor men to just follow this madman into whatever lies up ahead. Can he? And Hothian told him to get as many of them out as he possibly could. So damn it. "Lead on then, Commissar," Bain says, the grip on his pistol tight enough to cause further damage to its handle. Malviet punches the air. "Yes, I shall." Now he does draw his bolt pistol, just to wave it around. "Men of the Imperium's glorious Montpellier shields, we have found the path to the loathsome Orc, and will follow it to bring him his doom. Are you with me?" The response is muted, to say the least. Malviet doesn't seem to care. He just starts to march off down the left-hand tunnel, expecting them all to follow. Which they do, because, by the eternal and ongoing wisdom of the God Emperor, Malviet is somehow leading this doomed expedition. "Jacks, 2 teams," Bain growls over the private Vox channel. "One to the rear, one to the front. Teg, take the advance. Garel, stay back. You've earned a break from the muck and machinery for the minute." His men move out without another word spoken. "Men of 3rd Company," he says to the rest. "You heard the Commissar. We follow him. Remain in tight formation, standard 2 by 2, ears and eyes alert. No engagement without orders. Understood?" The response is better than they gave Malviet, but not nearly good enough for Elias Bain's liking. "I said, do you understand, 3rd Company?" he roars, and fixes them all with a death stare. These children will do what he damned well tells them. There are a lot of loud, panicking affirmations that are much more satisfactory. "Good. Move out," Bain orders, striding his way past them to take off in pursuit of Malviet and his towering stupidity. The squads make their way through the dark, decaying underhive tunnels for the next 2 hours, before Bain hears the first reports of gunfire ahead. The walls and ceiling of the passage are lit up by a sudden conflagration just around the next bend. "They're here, lad," Tig says in a harsh grunt over the Vox. Bain is already running ahead of everyone else before the last word is out of his corporal's mouth. "How many?" he barks as he rounds the corner, last pistol high. 6, maybe 7, Tig replies. Bain can now see his corporal's silhouette about 30 yards ahead, picked out by flashes of Orc gunfire. Tig is ducked down behind what looks like a thick set of pipework jutting out from the wall. The protection it offers isn't perfect, but it's keeping him alive. 3 of the other Jacks have taken up similar positions behind him. The 4th is crumpled in a heap in the center of the passage. Crossfire now fills the tunnel, and Bain adds to it as he reaches a pile of rubble that has fallen away from the side of the passage. With some dismay, he looks back and sees that Malviat is approaching as well, pushing his cohort of troops ahead of him. He's screaming at them to charge into the fray. Bain swears loudly. He needs the rest of the Jacks up here, not those fools meandering into enemy fire like a herd of stunned groks. Of course, they start dying almost immediately. Orc shooters turn 3 heads into a mess of bone, meat and blood before Bain has a chance of firing off another volley. There's nowhere near enough protection provided by the decaying metal pipework in this passage to provide cover for any of them. This is a damn shooting gallery. Malviat doesn't seem to care. To Bain's absolute horror, the commissar is striding past his position, bolt pistol alive in his hand. He has zero control over the damn thing, and it's unclear whether he's aiming at the backs of his own men or the orcs up ahead. Miraculously, he doesn't get hit. Everything flies past him, only to pulp some poor unfortunate guardsman behind. One of them has his entire midsection blown out. The look of horrified surprise on his face as it happens is one Bain will take to his grave. That's it. If he doesn't die here and now in this damn tunnel as well, thanks to the madman up ahead, who has now reached Teg's position. The corporal grabs Malviat by the shoulder epaulet and drags him down, while the niceties of command have gone out of the window. When he sees a hulking orc emerge from the firestorm, Bain can understand why. It's wearing a patched-together set of black and yellow armor that belches smoke. It's also carrying an enormous underslung cannon that coruscates with blue electric fire and emanates a high-pitched whine. "Who's gonna get it now, humies?" the orc roars. "Me mega blaster's warming up nice." Bain's blood instantly runs cold. Something with that level of firepower in a narrow tunnel like this. "Everybody down!" he shouts. All of the Callous Jacks obey. Only about half of the Montpellier shields do. The other half then disappears from the waist up as a beam of pure crackling hell thunders down the tunnel, destroying absolutely everything in its wake. It only lasts a couple of seconds, but that is more than enough. The screams that erupt from those left alive are cacophonous. Showered with the remains of their comrades, it's no wonder the troopers' level of panic has escalated so fast. All discipline is lost now. If they don't finish this quickly, everyone is going to die here. Bain rises from the pile of rubble, firing down the center of the tunnel, hoping to hit the armored orc before it gets a chance to fire another volley. Unbelievably, Malviat has shaken Teg off and is actively walking towards it. Bain is dismayed to see that his corporal is also clambering over the pipework to follow. "No, Teg, leave him! Let him go!" Bain screams over the vox. Maldrin Teg is a good guardsman, always has been, and a good guardsman always protects his superiors, no matter who they are. That was drummed into him many years ago. Malviat is a fool, but he's also a commissar, and Teg knows he must save him. Bain is running now, heedless of the gunfire still all around. "Teg!" he yells again, but he's too far away to provide any help. He watches Teg grab Malviat once again, this time even more roughly. The corporal bodily throws the commissar back over the pipework, then moves to jump back behind it as well. But it's too late. The orc's horrifying weapon roars into life once more, the high-pitched whine now a scream, and Maldrin Teg's entire upper right side is engulfed. "No!" Bain howls, as so loud he no longer sounds human. His legs go out from under him at the horror of it. This saves his life. The beam of coruscating fury flies over his head, taking a couple more of Third Company with it. Then the orc's gigantic gun explodes, obliterating the creature in an instant. The detonation deafens and blinds Bain. All he can do is roll onto his back and take huge gulping breaths as the world burns above him. His eyesight starts to return, but it's veiled with the heavy afterimage of the exploding gun. He climbs to his feet, somewhat amazed he hasn't been dealt a serious injury in the detonation. His brain feels thick and slow from it. "Jacks!" he thunders down the private vox. "Sound off!" He gets 6 replies. 3 of his men are dead. Most of those he put in the vanguard, including the best of them. The man who named him Elias Bain, as both a joke and a reminder to be more cautious, is gone. The Callous Jacks have lost their soul today, and with the orc that cut him down already dead, there's only one other place Bain can aim his sudden rage and grief. He is going to kill Peter Malviat. He's going to put his pistol to the man's temple and blow his stupid brains across the wall. Bain sees that Malviat has also climbed to his feet again. In the haze and confusion of the explosion's aftermath, the commissar does not see him stumble forward, gun raised. One shot, and this ends. One pull of the trigger and Bain can lead these poor men back down this passage and out of this hell, without more of them being sacrificed to this fool's lust for glory. The Emperor sees all, Mordred Tegg's voice reminds Bain as he staggers forward. I don't care. Yes you do, lad. Yes you do. Bain's augmetic index finger trembles on the trigger. Throne damn you, Tegg. Throne bless you and damn you, he whispers to himself and lowers the gun. Jacks, I want a situation report, he breathes into the vox. And make sure we gather our fallen properly. Tegg and the others don't deserve to be left down here. Aye, Sergeant. It'll get done, don't worry, he hears Valentine say in a steady voice, speaking for all the Callous Jacks. From behind, Bain can see what's left of Third Company are coming to their feet again, dazed and still half out of their minds. They can't go on. None of them are good for anything other than hitting a billet for a whole rotation. They'll all die down here, if he allows Malviat to push them on any further. Bain, what in damnation is happening? Malviat shrieks, finally having clapped eyes on the sergeant. The commissar's uniform is torn and blasted black by the explosion, but otherwise he is unharmed. The Emperor protects. Trying to establish that now, sir, Bain tells him, before clicking back on the Vox channel. How we doing, Jacks? He asks his team. The orcs are all dead, Valentine says. Bain can see his shape moving about in the gloom ahead. That gun overloading did for all of them. Acknowledged. Bain's eyes close for a second. Who did we lose other than Tegg? Callan and Wald. One with a year's service, one with 3 weeks. Callan was an excellent marksman, and Wald showed a lot of promise for such a young lad. He could have taken the fight to the Imperium's enemies for many years. We've lost 9 of Third Company, Gorell interrupts. Bain turns, looks back down the passageway, and sees the rest of his men still alive and uninjured, helping the remains of the Montpellier shields back to some semblance of sanity. Acknowledged, he tells the trooper. Just get them able to move, Gorell. And once that's done, make sure Tegg, Callan and Wald are bagged up safely. Sergeant Bain, what's going on? Malviat repeats. The Xenos are all dead, sir, Bain says. 12 men lost in the exchange, including my corporal, Mordred Tegg. Malviat stares at him for a moment. Acceptable losses, Sergeant, he then blurts, and Bain can see the near insanity in the man's eyes, even in this claustrophobic darkness. You have 5 minutes to get the men back on their feet, and then we march onwards. He's going to get everyone killed unless you do something. But what exactly is he going to do? If he can't bring himself to murder the man, then what other choice is there? He's a raving lunatic, intent on proving himself to the Emperor. Malviat wants glory, and nothing is going to stop that. Then use that lad. Give him his bloody glory. Over the private Vox channel, Bain whispers, Gorell, move the whole squad up here so they can see what I'm doing. Roger that, Sarge. He has to do this the right way, in front of all the men. Commissar, may I make a suggestion? Bain says to Malviat. The man sniffs. What, Sergeant? There may be a way for you to bolster the will of these men, Bain tells him, to make them a more effective fighting force. One eyebrow arches. Is there? Yes, sir. And my men as well, for that matter. The Callous Jacks are always ready to be motivated by one of the Imperium's fine commissars. Aren't you, Jacks? Yes, sir, they all reply as one. Bain couldn't be more proud. It's taken them no time at all to realize what he's up to. Gorell is gathering Third Company around, just the way he was ordered to. All their frightened, exhausted eyes are on Bain. Perfect. Malviot looks a little nonplussed, but that very quickly gives way to preening, just as Bain had hoped. "I agree, Sergeant," the Commissar says. "You walked us into this ambush after all. Not good enough for what's supposedly such a veteran unit." "Swallow it. You've eaten worse." "My thoughts exactly, Commissar." Bain gives him a curt nod. "To that end, and to avoid another such ambush, can I suggest that you lead the next reconnaissance?" Malviot's eyes go a little wide at this idea, but common sense is hurriedly overtaken by hubris, and he puffs out his chest. "Yes, Sergeant. I believe that might be a good idea." "Excellent, sir. And may I further suggest a 2-man team consisting of you and me?" "Why, Sergeant?" "Because we wouldn't want to alert the Xenos scum of our presence, and more than 2 men would likely do that." "It wouldn't. The Jacks can move like ghosts when necessary. And I would benefit from learning a little of your motivational style by being at your side, Commissar." For a moment, Bain thinks he might have pushed things too far. There's no way the man can be so swollen by his own ego that he falls for, Yes, I believe that would be a good thing for you, Sergeant." "Then please do lead the way, Commissar," Bain says, and gestures down the tunnel. "Excellent. Follow me, Sergeant. We shall seek out the enemy together, so that we may bring the Emperor's justice to it, before it can overcome you and your men again." Bain affects a smile of unqualified agreement for a moment in response to this, before it drops off his face the moment Malviot's back is turned. Stalking off after the fool, he hits his compede. "Hunker down. Straighten the other men out as best you can. If you don't hear from me within the hour, best speed back to the junction and take the path of least resistance. Get the hell out of here." "Understood, Sergeant," Valentine replies. "Good luck." "Come on, Sergeant Bain. Keep up. Time is wasting." Malviot calls back, already lost in the gloom ahead. "Thank you, Trooper. I think I might need it." Bain double times it to catch up to the Commissar, thinking all the while about what he's going to do once he's actually alone with the man. The answer presents itself about 30 minutes later. The 2 men have taken several turns away from the tunnel they started in. Bain can remember his way back. He very much doubts Malviot can, but this is not a guaranteed solution to the problem. It will be just like the officious Commissar to stumble his way out of this maze eventually. Instead, a far better option arises when they hear the sound of orcs shouting at one another from somewhere up ahead. "Xenos coming into range, sir," Bain says to Malviot. "Of course, Sergeant. Shall we see how many of them there are?" "It matters not. They will feel the wrath of the God Emperor." He unhooks his chainsword and draws his bolt pistol. Bain could probably slap either out of his hand with barely any effort. "Yes, sir," Bain says, and brings up his pistol. At least Malviot has the good sense to soften his footsteps as they draw closer to the arguing orcs. He's taking Bain's lead, even if he'd likely be loath to admit it. But up ahead, they see the tunnel has an opening in its left-hand side. It looks more like a blast hole created during conflict than a deliberately placed doorway. Crouching, Bain approaches the opening and looks through it. Beyond it is a small room containing several banks of dead cogitators. Dust, muck, and blood cover almost every surface. It smells like a charnel pit. In the center of the room are 4 orcs engaged in a heated debate of the corpses of 2 Gretchen. One of the orcs is a knob, smaller than Skullchewer was, but extremely dangerous nonetheless. Bain's heart almost jumps out of his chest when Malviot passes right across the opening, but the orcs are far too intent on their argument to notice him. The Commissar crouches down and stares into the room. "We can take them, Sergeant," he hisses at Bain. This is the moment, then, when Malviot gets to decide the course of his own destiny. "We could, sir," Bain replied in a hushed tone. "But are you sure that's what you want? We can return to the men, leave the creatures to it, find another way out of here." He's giving Malviat a chance. Much more than the Commissar gave Teg and the rest of the men now zipped up in body bags. "Don't be such a coward, Sergeant," Malviat spits. "This is our chance for a glorious victory." "There is no glory in this mire, you fool." "On your command, then, sir," Bain whispers. "Indeed." Malviat stands up and positions himself squarely in the opening. He activates his chainsword, and its gutters roar immediately alerts the orcs to their presence. "For the Emperor!" he screams triumphantly. Bain allows Marriott to run right at the orcs before entering the room himself, blasting the nearest of the creatures with his pistol. He then puts a hole through the chest of the second and kills the third with a perfectly aimed headshot. He could shoot the knob that Malviat was now engaged clumsily with. Bain's finger does not tremble over the trigger this time. It is resolutely still. "That's a fancy hat you got there, Humie!" the knob roars at Malviat. "You must be in charge. Means I'll kill you first, eh?" The creature bats a bolt pistol out of Malviat's right hand and deflects the wild, downward-sweeping chainsword away with the gauntlet on its left arm. It then unsheathes a chopper from a belt on its waist and buries the blade in Malviat's side up to the hilt. Bain then shoots it through the eye, killing it instantly. Malviat is screaming before the knob's body hits the ground. Bain moves slowly across the room and stands over the Commissar, who is now collapsed in agony. The look of pain and terror on his face is entirely familiar, but it's the indignation in his eyes that Bain recognizes most. Malviat generally thought the God Emperor would always protect him, that he would keep him safe against the Orc menace, just like Bain used to, before years of war and death taught him otherwise. Bain squeezes his right hand into a fist, feeling the cold metal of the augmetic fingers against his palm. The memory of how he got them consumes him for a moment. No Maldrin Teg to come to the rescue now, though. The stupid little man made sure of that, didn't he? "Help me, Sergeant!" Malviat squeals, hands pressed to the gushing wound in his side. But there's nothing Bain can do, even if he wanted to. "You sure about that, lad?" "Yes, Teg. Absolutely sure." Malviat asks for help again, several times in fact, but there really is nothing Bain can do. He tells the dying man this in a calm and matter-of-fact tone, while he stands over him and watches nature take its course. Then, as the blood loss increases and his face pales significantly, Malviat starts to babble desperate prayers to the Emperor. They all do that eventually. When they realize what's actually happening, their final words are never heard by the God Emperor though, only by men like Elias Bain. Whether Malviat is actually dead or not when Bain decides to leave the room is something he truly does not even care about. The man is out of his hands now. Where his soul goes next is anyone's guess. Bain finds his way back to the men easily. They all stare at him as he approaches. When they see that he is alone, a great many faces go slack with relief. Valentine stands up from where he's been crouched over a body bag and gives his sergeant a curt nod. Bain looks down to see Teg's pallid face looking back up at him. Would Teg have prayed to the Emperor if he had been given the chance? "Where's the Commissar?" Valentine asks. Bain stares at him grimly for a moment before turning to address all of the men. "He has gone to his glory alongside our God Emperor, which is exactly what he would have wanted." "How did he die?" one of the men of 3rd Company asks, stepping forward. It's the same boy who asked Bain whether he'd eaten orc flesh or not. There's an eager look in his eyes. For some reason, Bain cannot maintain eye contact with him. It's quite impossible. "He died the way he deserved to," he replies eventually. The boy nods, seemingly satisfied with this. "And what do we do now?" he asks, and Bain has less trouble meeting his gaze this time. "We get out of here," he tells him. "Nobody else dies down here today. For glory or any other reason. It takes them many hours to reach the surface, and Bain remains true to his word throughout. Every man left alive from the Montpellier shield survives their flight from the dark. None die for glory, none die for ego, none die for stupidity. In all this muck and darkness, that is the best outcome Bain could hope for. Carrying Mordred Tegg's body, Bain emerges from the underhive alongside the rest of his squad, with 23 stunned guardsmen in their wake. These scared young men and women will come to call him a hero in the days and weeks ahead, in animated conversations over games of Emperor's Tally and cups of hot recaf. It will also emerge that the death of one of the Underhive's orc commanders at the hands of Elias Bain and the suicidally brave Commissar has led to a slow collapse of Xenos morale, turning the tide in the battle for High Card's doubt. Peiter Malviet will be honoured as a martyr to the cause. Mordred Tegg will be forgotten by everyone except the Callous Jacks. This means that Elias Bain will have stumbled onto a victory he knows he does not deserve, any more than Tegg deserved to die the way he did, thanks to the stupidity of one deluded idiot. But did Malviet deserve to die the way he did, lad? No matter what he did to me. Bain does not know the answer to that question. As he loads Tegg's body onto the deck of a waiting chimera, he decides that if he ever does meet the God Emperor when the war finally claims his life, he will be sure to ask him. The Chronicles of Bain, Part 4, A Life That Matters, by Neil Andrew Miller. A rescue mission for the Callous Jacks turns into a race for survival. The auger blares a warning throughout the Valkyrie. A shell hits the craft a split second later. Elias Bain grabs hold of the harness, keeping him in his seat as the assault carrier starts to spin out of control. His stomach lurches as they plummet towards the ground. "We're hit!" barks the pilot over the Vox, somewhat unnecessarily. "Get it back under control!" Bain roars at him, before turning to his men. "Brace for impact!" "We've lost the starboard engine!" the pilot cries. "Attempting an emergency landing!" In Bain's experience, an emergency landing could mean anything from the Valkyrie carving a long furrow in the dark earth on Catanris 5 to exploding into a million pieces. Beside him, Trooper Scant starts to pray out loud. "Thy light and thy strength protect me. Thy will and thy hate direct me." He's not listening, boy. If we survive this, it'll have nothing to do with him. If any more of the Callous Jacks are praying, they are talking to the Emperor silently. Most are doing the same as Bain, though, hanging on and hoping. They survived planetfall on Adriath Major, so it's not like this is the first time they've been in this kind of situation. Bain's stomach rights itself as the Valkyrie levels out from its death spiral, the pilot gunning the throttle to put them in a steep but survivable dive. Long furrow it is, then. Bain is rocked in his harness as the craft makes heavy contact with the ground. In the 7 or 8 seconds it takes for the Valkyrie to slide to a halt, then list heavily to one side in its final resting place, Scant manages to fire out 2 more hurried stanzas of "Thy Servant, Thy Sword." Renox vomits. But then, Renox always vomits, so that's nothing to be concerned about. "Nice soft landing, pilot!" Kraft exclaims, earning him the laughter he craves. He's not as good at it as Tegg, but then, nobody ever has been. "Quit the funny business and get that landing ramp down, Kraft," Bain growls. The trooper unlocks his harness, stands, and throws him a hasty sign of the Aquila. "Yes, Sergeant." He's smiling as he does it. Bain doesn't have a problem with that. He's just survived a Valkyrie crash after all. "Dram, how far are we from the target?" Dram Valentine, Bain's trustworthy corporal of 4 years, looks at his auspex and surprise crosses his face. "Don't take me. We're only a mile away, Sarge." Bain can't help but laugh. That's closer than the mission plan. Only in the Imperium of man's glorious Astra Militarum can a crash landing be better than a deliberate one. "Clear the vehicle," he commands. "I want to know if we've got company." Bain looks at Scout, who has thankfully finished praying. "Set flame charges once we're out. Burn this tin can so the orcs can't scrounge anything from it." "You can't destroy a craft of the Aeronautica Imperialis," protests the pilot from the cockpit. "It's bad enough you had me fly it out here alone, Sergeant. You can't just blow it up." "I damn well can, pilot, and I damn well will," Bain replies, climbing out of his harness. "What's your name again?" "Atlan Dicor." "Well, congratulations, Atlan Dicor. As my team is currently under strength, you're now an honorary Callous Jack." "Sir?" Dicor sounds a little awed. "Grab whatever weaponry you have and join us outside. You're going to help us save a Kitanrin legate and his family." "I am?" "You are." Bain closes a link to the cockpit and makes his way down through the Valkyrie to where Croft has successfully got the rear door open. The sticky, humid air of Kitanris 5 already permeates the hold, and Bain can see the dense jungle that covers this region of the planet waiting for him with open arms. By the time he exits the craft, his Jacks are waiting, ready for their orders. "No sign of the enemy, Sarge," Valentine tells him. "Must have been a long-range shot." Bain nods. "An equally lucky one at that." He takes a breath. "All right, Jacks. Thanks to Pilot Dicor here." He gestures to the flight-suited man as he rounds the Valkyrie's fuselage and joins the group. "We survived this crash intact, so we make for the site of the Legate's Chimera as planned." He looks at Croft. "Since you were so quick to praise his piloting skills, you get to be his guardian for the duration." Croft starts to protest, but sees the look in Bain's eyes. He then grins and puts an arm around Atlan Dicor's shoulder. "Don't you worry, pilot," he tells him. "You're with Skull Chewers Bain now." He taps him on the chest plate. "The Orc Eater," taps him again. "The hero of Haikar's Doubt." This time he gives the chest plate a whack. "He and us Callous Jacks will get you through." "That's enough, Croft," Bain warns, before addressing everyone. "We move out. Narrow arc formation. Open Vox. Engage at will." They do as commanded, with Atlan Dicor falling into line as best he can. As the Valkyrie erupts in flames behind them, and they all wade into the thick undergrowth, Bain feels a sudden, dreadful tiredness threaten to overwhelm him. Another jungle, another mission, another fool to expend precious lives on. By all accounts, Legate Hendus Partel is an unpleasant lump of Groxhide, who nearly trapped his entire family in the capital because he couldn't bear to part with his collection of rare antiquities. The orcs would have slaughtered all of them, were it not for a squad of Tempestus Scions who evacuated them in a chimera. Most died in the rescue. That chimera is motionless and uncommunicative, somewhere a mile or so away from where Bain's Valkyrie crashed. Long-range scans report that, having sacked the capital, an orc advance is now making for the main Imperial lines to the west, with the vehicle right in its path. And so, the Callous Jacks, still under strength from their last mission, get to clean up the mess. How many more of my men will die, so one man can continue to live? Both Bain's expression and his mood are grim as they slog their way towards the vehicle. The jungle around is eerily quiet. Usually, the sound of wildlife is constant, when it's not drowned out by the sounds of war, but this section of Kitanrin rainforest is virtually silent, except for Alton Dicor's fumbling passage through it. The animals know something's coming. "Chimera located," Renox tells Bain over the Vox. "Signs of life?" "Oh yes, definitely," she says with a sigh. Bain understands what Renox means when he pushes the large fronds of a tree aside to see the chimera parked awkwardly in a shallow ditch. Behind it is a winding pathway of flattened vegetation and beside it a corpulent man in a long blue coat covered in gold brocade. His face is bright red, and he's shaking uncontrollably. "You must save my collection," he is screaming at Renox. "Those antiques are incredibly precious." Alia Renox may be prone to vomiting when inside a crashing Valkyrie, but on the ground she's a hardened killer. If this man continues to poke her like that, he'll lose an arm. "Legate Partel," Bain said in a loud voice as he walks over. "Good to see you alive. Are you injured?" The man turns his gaze on Bain. He has the eyes of someone who has never had to change their own bedsheets, let alone clean out their own latrine. "Who are you?" "Sergeant Elias Bain of the Cadian 96th Regiment." His eyes go wide. "Good. That gets us off on the right foot. I trust a soldier of your reputation is going to do a better job of saving me than Vastian," Partel says. Bain stares at him for a moment with barely concealed contempt, before eventually continuing. "Is there anybody else alive? Is Captain Vastian still alive?" Partel shakes his head, jowls wobbling. "Only my niece. She's inside." Bain nods and turns to Renox. "Make sure the legate is kept safe, trooper." She's not happy about the order, but she was the first one to stumble across the man, so she gets the short end of the stick. "Valentine, sweep the local area for threats," Bain says over the vox, "and get me some Auspex readings on where the hell that orc advance is." "Yes, Sarge." "Kraft, bring Dicor inside the Chimera. I want to know what's wrong with it." "Yes, sir." "Please be careful of my treasure, Sergeant," Partel whines, as Bain makes for the Chimera's back end. Bain ignores him, deciding silence is the best policy. The rear access ramp is open, and once inside, Bain sees the troop compartment that has been stripped bare to make room for dozens of wooden trunks covered in ornate filigree and containing everything from ostentatious clothing to jewel-encrusted silverware. The only remaining bench seat left has a young girl with blonde hair sitting on it, with what looks like the corpse of an older woman lying beside her, its head in her lap. The girl is cradling the woman's head gently. "Kenna Partel?" Bain says, remembering her name from the mission brief. "Yes," she replies. There are tears in her eyes, but also anger. Good. That's useful. Anger gets a person going. Bain approaches her, making sure to holster his bolt pistol and remove his helmet. As he does so, Kraft takes Atlan Dicor forward, pushing past the legate's possessions and through the hatch leading to the Chimera's driver compartment. "Is that Hershia Partel?" Bain asks the girl, pointing at the corpse. Kenna Partel looks at his hand. "What happened to your fingers?" "I'm sorry?" "What happened to your fingers?" she repeats. Bain looks down at his augmetics, caught a little off guard by the question. "An orc bit them off," he tells her truthfully. She nods gently. "I can believe that." Horror swims in her eyes. "Is that your mother, Kenna?" She looks down at the woman's head and strokes her fingers through the hair. "Yes." "And your father?" "Gone too. They tore him to pieces." The grief in her voice is a lead weight. "Is it just you and your uncle left alive?" Now her eyes flash. "Yes, me, him, and his valuables." She looks around the compartment with eyes narrowed. "Understood. I'm sorry." She fixes Bain with a stare. "For what? You're here to save what's left of us, aren't you? To get the precious legate away from this war." "Yes, that's correct." Bain returns the stare, because at this point he feels like it's necessary. Anger is good, but not directed at him. "To get you away from it too." "I don't matter," she murmurs. "According to my orders, you do." Kraft emerges from the front hatchway. "Status?" Bain asks. "Not great, Sarge. Vastian's dead. He was driving the Chimera, took a gut shot and bled out. Did well to get them this far with that kind of injury." "And the Chimera?" "He blew out the turbine's upper range trying to get as much distance as possible. I doubt she'll do more than 20 miles per hour now. If we had a tech priest, we might get more, but that's where we stand on movement. At least it does move. What about armament? Kraft grunts. That's worse. She must have been sat up at the palace waiting for a refit. That's probably why Vastion was able to commandeer her. Laser's dead, and there's no ammo for the bolter. The pintle stubbers got some, but not much. Only 2 of the hull-mounted lasguns have packs. Throne's sake, Bain mutters. My thoughts exactly. Get her prepped to move. Keep Dicor up there with you. Best place for him? Aye, sir. Kraft flips off a salute and disappears again. Bain gets back on the Vox, still looking down at Kenna Partel as he speaks into it. Jacks, once this vehicle is good to go, we're moving out. I want all of this rubbish cleared out of the troop compartment so we can all get in. Hendus won't let you do that, Kenna warns. Bain raises an eyebrow. Do you really think he can stop me? She considers this for a moment, before shaking her head. Bain looks back down at the corpse. I'm afraid we'll have to leave your mother here as well. The dead don't matter in places like this, do they? She says in a dull voice. They do, Kenna, but not as much as the living, Bain tells her. She stares up at him for a moment, pain and rage swimming in her eyes, but then her jawline hardens. I understand, she says, voice bleak but resolute. Bain nods in approval. Very few do. Take strength in that. He puts his helmet back on and turns to leave. I saw you. In a hololith report, Kenna says. Bain turns back to her, stopping in the hatchway. You did? Yes, when you took the port of Melkora back. She inclines her head. You look a lot taller in the images. Bain sighs. 5 minutes, Kenna. She smiles briefly, then returns her attention to her mother again. Hendus Partel is every bit as angry at seeing his cargo of clothes, silverware and jewellery thrown out as Kenna predicted. He doesn't seem to care at all about the fate of his sister. You can't do this, he squeals. I will have you executed. No, you won't, Legate, Bain replies in a level tone. Because my mission parameters were to bring you back alive, not you and your trinkets. They are precious heirlooms, worth more than you and all your men put together. He stabs a finger at Bain. Mark my words, Sergeant. I will have your head. Bain takes a deep breath to cool his temper before he responds. This isn't the first time he's dealt with a fool like this. Legate, rescuing you has already cost an entire squad of Tempestor Scions. How kindly do you think High Command are going to look on you if another elite unit is sacrificed so you can keep your shiny baubles? Partel balks at this. Bain leans forward a little. The answer is not very kindly, Legate. You have power and influence over the people of Catanris 5. How much of that influence do you think extends to the Emperor's Astra Militarum? His lower lip wobbles. Bain bends down and picks up an ornate silver spoon, encrusted with gems around the handle. Here, you can take this, he tells Partel, holding it out. The legate thinks about it for a moment before snatching the spoon out of Bain's hand. Sarge, Valentine calls as he runs up to where they're standing. He's been down the beaten track from the Chimera for the past 20 minutes, trying to get the Auspex to work. From the expression on his face, it appears he's been successful. They're coming. How many? Valentine's face blanches. All of them, I think. How much time? Bain keeps the stress out of his voice as best he can. 2 minutes until we hear them. 5 until we see them. Kraft! Bain barks over the Vox. Is she ready to roll? Just about, Sarge, but we'll have to take it easy. Might not be an option, Trooper, Bain tells him. Jacks, on board the Chimera now! He turns back to Partel. Say goodbye to your trinkets, Legate. If you stay here with them any longer, you'll be squig food. That does the trick. Partel is up into the Chimera almost as fast as the rest of the team. Get us out of here! Bain shouts down the vehicle to Kraft as he hits the button to close the access ramp. As it folds up to block out the Catanrin jungle, The chimera lurches forward and out of the ditch it's been mired in. The sound of cracking, breaking vegetation fills the air, and the engine turbine roars in a distressingly high tone as the vehicle starts to gain momentum. "Renox, get up in the turret on that stubber. Keep an eye out, and shoot anything green that isn't the jungle." "Aye, Sarge." "Scant, Tarbir, you take the 2 lasguns that are working in here. Dram, get up front and see if you can get through to the garrison. I want them to know we're coming. It's bad enough trying to outrun orcs. I don't need some fool in a basilisk with an itchy trigger finger blowing us to pieces. Mostein, keep an eye on our guests, and feed me ammo if I call for it." With orders given, Bain steps onto the ladder in the center of the compartment and reaches up to unlock the top hatch. He throws it open with a clang and sticks his head and shoulders out into the open air. The instant he does, he can hear them, even over the pained roar of the chimera's engine and the tortured sound of terrified wildlife echoing from the jungle. There must be an entire war bearing down on them from the noise they're making. The chimera probably has enough speed to outrun the tanks and battle wagons, but the lighter vehicles will catch up to it with no trouble. Bain can only hope that the dense jungle on either side will hold them up a little. The distressed vehicle lurches angrily to the right, slamming the side of the hatch into Bain's ribs. "So damn it, Kraft!" he growls down the Vox. "Sorry, Sarge. We have to avoid the bigger trees. We'll come to a bloody quick halt if we hit one." Bain lets out a grunt of exasperation. They can't even go in a straight line. How the hell are they supposed to outrun a mob of orcs? "Can't get through on Vox, Sarge," Valentine tells Bain. "Just eating static." "Keep trying. The closer we get, the better the chances." But how much closer will they get before the orcs are on them? The front line was a good 20 miles from where Dykor's Valkyrie came down, and they've got no more than 20 miles per hour in speed. An hour. A whole damned hour before we get to safety. Bain looks towards the horizon and sees that just above the jungle canopy, a veil of black smoke is rising. The orcs are almost upon them. All of them, according to his corporal. Bain clenches his jaw, checks the magazine of his bolt pistol, and wonders whether he should duck back into the compartment and ask Scant to start praying again. Once the orc outriders spot the chimera, the bullets start flying. The vehicle begins to take hits across its entire rear flank from the guns mounted on the creature's crude bikes. Bain pitches one of the Xenos off a war bike with a well-timed shot, but the orc is almost instantly replaced by 2 more on similar vehicles. "Faster, Kraft!" he orders, knowing full well how stupid it is to make the demand. "We'll blow the turbine out completely, Sarge, and we'll be overrun in minutes if we don't. Gun it!" The chimera lurches forward, knocking Bain off his aim. Instead of killing the orc driving a war buggy on his right-hand side, the shot hits one of the buggy's wheels, causing the vehicle to skew sideways and slam into the buttress of a massive moss-covered tree. Turning away from the resultant explosion, he sees that Renox is screaming in rage. She pumps out shot after shot from the pintle stubber. She's missing with just as many shots as she's hitting, though. Her discipline's gone right out of the window in the hectic and sudden onslaught. If she doesn't calm down, she'll... Renox's head disappears. One moment she's screaming and shooting, the next she's a headless marionette with its strings cut. Blood fountains from her neck, sending a spray of red mist into the air. Bain is horribly reminded of an Astra Militarum parade he attended when he was a new recruit. Some of Dykor's companions in the Aeronautica flew over the crowding Avengers, trailing red smoke. With Renox gone and the stubber unmanned, more orc vehicles come in fast. The fire from the 2 mounted lasguns isn't enough to hold them back. The only thing stopping the Xenos from overrunning the chimera is the thick jungle. A fast-moving buggy manned by 2 orcs comes alongside, weaving its way through the trees with a maneuverability that makes a mockery of the lumbering chimera. The orc driving is cackling wildly. The other raises a huge power claw above its head and, with a roar, slams it into the side of the transport, tearing a massive hole in the side. The orc tries to pull the claw out for another strike, but Bain blows its head off before it gets a chance. He then shoots the buggy's driver through the throat, ending the immediate threat. Bain drops back down to see that Skant evidently didn't pray hard enough. The Orc's power claw has disemboweled him. Trooper Mostein replaces Skant as the Chimera's remaining hull-mounted lasgun, joining Tarbir in his attempts to hold off the attack. Hendas Partel screams. Kenna Partel gets up from her seat and picks up Skant's las rifle. Bain notices that the white dress she is wearing is soaked with blood at the hem. She then goes over to the large hole torn in the Chimera's side and points the gun out of it. Without waiting for any instructions, Kenna starts to rake fire through the gash, peppering the Orc vehicles outside. Bain stares at her, incredulous for a moment. She turns and sees his expression. "My father believed in having his children prepare for anything," she tells him, by way of explanation. Bain nods. "Smart man." Leaving Kenna to continue her fusillade, he hauls himself back through the top hatch. Renox's body is still slumped in the turret. Bain pauses for a brief moment. The living matter more than the dead in places like this. He pulls the corpse aside, sending it tumbling to the confined space of the deck below. He then takes up place at the stubber. Its readout says he doesn't have much to play with, but it's better than nothing. Bain begins to target Orc vehicles left, right and behind. He hits most of them, destroying some and disabling others, but there are always more. And with dismay, he sees that several battle wagons are gaining on them now, using the trampled path they've carved to speed towards them on more or less level ground. If they get in decent range, everyone in the Chimera is dead. The black cloud in the sky above fills the horizon. There are even bigger monsters back there than battle wagons, but Bain will be long dead before he gets a chance to see them. Looking down the body of the Chimera, he sees that Tabir's mounted lasgun has given up the ghost. It's either out of power, or he's been killed by Orc fire. Mustein's gun continues to function, meaning that it's only him on the right flank of the vehicle now, with Kenna Partel on the left. Bain can see her broad, sweeping volleys erupting from the torn hull. She destroys a warbike going one way with arcing fire, and damages a buggy coming back the other. Her efficiency and accuracy are impressive. He finishes the job on the buggy with the stubber. This is the last action the weapon will take. Its ammo is spent. More and more bikes and buggies are weaving their way through the jungle to either side of the Chimera. No matter how many they kill, there are always more to replace them. Bain can hear bellows of laughter coming from the Orcs. They're thoroughly enjoying this, and to his dismay, he finds he can understand why. This is a hunt that only has one ending, and Bain wouldn't be surprised if they were pulling their shots to prolong the chase a little more. "Sergeant!" Valentine roars from below. "Contact with Western Garrison established!" Bain ducks out of the turret to hear him better. "How far out are we? Can you tell?" "About 6 miles. "That's a lot closer than I thought," Bain says in a relieved rush. He thinks for a moment. "Call in a bombardment on our position." Valentine's eyes go wide. "Sergeant?" "Look, damn, we're going to be overrun in the next few minutes anyway. I'd rather get blown to pieces by an earthshaker than by a bunch of laughing Orcs." He fixes the corporal with a stare. "Call it in." "Yes, Sarge," Valentine replies, his face pale. Bain resumes his position in the turret and continues to blast away at the enemy with his pistol, expecting at any moment to be blown to pieces by his own side. When the first shell does hit, it's off to the left, and far enough away not to cause any problems, other than making the Chimera rock on its tracks. It obliterates a swathe of jungle, taking several Orc vehicles with it. The next blast is closer to home, and Bain's ears ring as he is engulfed by smoke and debris. A splinter of tree trunk ricochets off the side of the turret just below him. His head would have gone the way of Renox's, had it even been a few feet higher. Bain takes this very near miss as a sign to retreat permanently from his firing position. Inside the troop compartment, it resembles an abattoir. Tarbir is indeed dead. Mostine is still alive, but clutching a wound in his side that will kill him if he's not treated very soon. My poor Jacks. My poor understrength Jacks, who needed a week's rest. Not this damned mess. Now half gone, all for the sake of one man, currently curled up in the Chimera's hold, screaming for salvation, with the blood of Bain's comrades sloshing around his ankles. No, not just for him. Kenna Partel is still firing Scant's lasgun. Her screams are as loud as her uncle's, but hers are of pure rage and defiance. "Pull back, Kenna! Let the ordnance do its job!" Bain commands, not expecting a response. He doubts she'd hear anything right now above the roar of her vengeance. Bain stumbles over to her as he hears another shell detonate close by. It rocks the Chimera once more, and with it, the sound of grinding erupts from somewhere deep within the vehicle. Not long now. Not much left to give. "Kenna, get back!" he demands again, this time grabbing the girl by the arm and yanking her away. Through the tear come several shots that whistle across the compartment. The orcs aren't giving up, despite the barrage being called down on them. Kenna crashes into the side of the Chimera, her eyes flashing with absolute fury. "I want to kill them," she screeches. "And you have," Bain tells her. "But you're done. We're done. We stay down and hope Croft can get us across the front line." "Coward," she spits, and starts to bring the lasgun to bear again, this time on Bain. He grabs it out of her hand in a swift motion and slams her against the wall with his arm. "Kenna, you have no idea what I am," he tells her, his voice barely audible above the tumult. "I have waded in more blood than you can imagine, and I have buried more men than I can remember. But I have always completed the mission, and today that mission is your life and your uncle's." Bain releases her and steps back, minding his footing on what's left of troopers Scant and Tarbear. "You will survive this throne, damn you! These poor bastards deserve that much." "And what do I do then?" she snaps. "Everything I loved or cared about is gone. Find a way off this wretched planet," he tells her. "You're from a noble house. It shouldn't be that difficult for you. Get away from all of this." Bain heaves a sigh. "There are very few places in this damn galaxy with any peace, Kenna. Find one and cling to it." "Would you do that, Sergeant Bain?" "If I could? Yes!" "So why don't you?" "I'm Astra Militarum, Kenna," he replies, snorting with disgust. "I belong to the God Emperor. I go where he tells me." "Sarge," Kraft's voice comes over the Vox. "The turbine's dying. We've got seconds left." "Then give it everything you can," Bain demands, turning from Kenna and making his way forward for the final time. In the driver's compartment, Valentine is squeezed up against Atlan Dicor, who has gone somewhere soft and pleasant in his mind from the looks of the expression on his face. Kraft is hunched over the controls, his face set. Both the view slot ahead and the main Auspex screen show that the jungle is thinning. Through its boughs and branches, Bain can see the rising grey hulks of Imperial siege works. They've nearly made it. "Tell them that we have Legate Partel on board and to clear us a damn path through," he orders Valentine. The corporal does as he's told, as yet another shell slams into the ground, this time just to the left. "Thrown!" Kraft wails, and wrenches the Chimera right. The gas turbine, which has sounded dreadful throughout, now takes on a whine so high-pitched and distressed it almost drowns out the constant sound of Imperial shelling and Orc crossfire. Bain looks ahead again. "There!" he exclaims, pointing at the siege works right ahead of them. "That gap's big enough. Get us there, Kraft." It's 300 yards away. The turbine's whine turns into a howl as Kraft ratchets the accelerator. 200 yards. The Orc war machines close in from all sides. 100 yards. The guardsmen on top of the siege works are close enough now to start shooting at the Orcs themselves. A full-scale battle is about to erupt, with Bain's Chimera caught right in the middle. And then, just as they hear a monstrous bang vibrate around the compartment as the turbine gives out completely, they are through. The ground is hard and level beyond the siege works, so the Chimera rumbles forward for another 40 or 50 yards, just on the momentum it's built up. Kraft has to make a final swerve to avoid a squadron of onrushing Leman Russ tanks before the vehicle grinds to a halt, listing at an angle. "By the Holy Throne on Terra, we made it," Kraft says in a breathless rush. Thanks to your driving, trooper. I never knew you had it in you, Valentine says with a grin. Bain grasps both men by the shoulder. Excellent work, both of you. From the rear of the Chimera, the sound of tremulous screaming erupts. You better go and sort that out, Valentine says, the smile getting broader. His relief is palpable. Bain pushes his way back past the turret and renocks his body. Through the hatchway, he sees that Mostein is on his feet and has hit the ramp release button. The access ramp lowers to illuminate the carnage inside the troop compartment. Outside, the battle has been joined. The air is on fire, the slaughter has begun. But no orcs are shooting at Bain for the first time in hours. It's somebody else's fight now. For the moment, anyway. Several guardsmen appear at the back of the Chimera. One of them is Captain. Sergeant Bain? He asks, looking around the gore-soaked compartment, his face pale. Aye, sir. Bain points at the screaming Hendus Partel. This is the legate. He's safe and sound. Mission accomplished. The captain looks doubtfully at the legate, but then nods and bids his troops take the wailing man somewhere much safer and cleaner. They also help Mostein out and towards medical attention. Kenna Partel is ignored by everyone, except Elias Bain. He follows her down the ramp and out onto the battlefield. It's not safe here, Kenna. We need to get you further behind the lines, he tells her. She whips around, her face still full of the fury that kept her alive and fighting in the Chimera. Why? What damned difference does it make now? Bain's sudden anger meets hers head on. You survived, don't damn you! Embrace it! Don't let this be for nothing! He indicates the remains of his dead Callous Jacks. As he does so, Bain curses inwardly, realizing that his angry outburst has caused heads to turn in their direction. This should not be a conversation for anyone else's ears. Kenna stands as tall as she can, a girl in the blood-soaked, grim-encrusted white dress, the battle raging right behind her. All right then, I won't, she says. You say the God Emperor tells you where to go. I want the same. I want to fight them. The horror that consumes Bain in that moment is beyond anything he's felt before. No. You have a chance at a much better life. Don't waste that. Is serving the God Emperor a waste? She counters. Bain swallows hard, looking at the small crowd now forming around them. How does he answer that? People can hear him. His loyal guardsmen can hear him, and he is Skullchewer's Bain, the Orc Eater, the damned hero of Haikar's doubt. His voice carries far. No life spent in the Emperor's service is a waste, Bain said loudly, looking at the crowd. When he turns his gaze to Kenna, however, his voice becomes a near whisper. But you have a lot more to offer, Kenna. Your family name, your blood, carries weight. Go and live a life that matters. Go and serve the Emperor in another, better way. One that doesn't leave you covered in blood. She stares at him for a second, and in her eyes, Bain can see that his words fall on utterly deaf ears. She will join them. Of course she will. She will be given her lasgun and her helmet, and she will be sent to another hellhole just like this one. She will kill in the name of her dead father. She will fight in the name of her dead mother. She will die in the name of her God Emperor. And none of it will matter. Goodbye, Sergeant. You've given me the chance to spend my life the way I choose, and I thank you for that, Kenna Partel says, her jaw set, her voice resolute. Bain doesn't try to reply. What would he even say? He just nods slowly and watches her march towards the group of guardsmen escorting her uncle off the battlefield. Then the exhaustion that hit him before the desperate race out of the jungle returns tenfold. Thankfully, the small crowd drifts away now that the show is over, leaving Bain alone with his thoughts. He turns to take one final look at the chimera that saved his life, keying his vox-link as he does. Regroup on me, Jacks, he says, keeping the exhaustion resolutely out of his voice. We'll make best speed to the command post for debriefing and reassignment. Bain heaves a sigh. He needs recaf, a ration pack, and a cot, in that order. And then he'll be ready for the next battle, the next mission. Is serving the God Emperor a waste? Kenna Partel's question will stay with him for a long time to come, because deep down, in whatever passes for his soul, Elias Bain knows damned well what the answer is. The Chronicles of Bain, Part 5, The Nasty Git, by Neil Andrew Miller. Sergeant Elias Bain has to make one of the toughest decisions of his career. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be Grat Zuglug that kills him. None of the other boys are going to get there first, because Grat is sneakier than they are. He's faster than any of them too. They're all big, dumb, and slow, but Grat is small, fast, and clever. It'll only take a minute to slice that nasty Git's throat, and Grat has just the wicked blade to do it. Oi, look! Zuglug's got his little stabber out, lads! Hedrog shouts with delight, pointing at Grat, who has been so caught up in staring at the shiny edge of his knife that he hasn't noticed the attention on him until now. The other boys laugh. You zogging git, Grat snarls at him. This little stabber of mine has slit the throats of loads of big dumb orcs like you. Keep talking like that, and you'll be next. This is greeted with a snarl of rage from Hedrog, and roars of approval from the rest. Shut it, Nob Gazgit growls. We don't want to warn the nasty Git's wares here, do we? The orcs all clam up, shaking their heads. None of them want to argue with Gazgit. He's bigger than all of them, meaner too. If Grat Zuglug is the one who does kill the nasty Git, Gazgit will be dead impressed. Grat will be his main boy in the squad. Then dumb orcs like Hedrog would have to do what Grat says, wouldn't they? Gazgit points down and across the rocky plateau that the orcs are currently gathered on. The boys from Bugrat's lot say the nasty Git and his bastards are down there in that. Gazgit looks down at Grat, confusion etched across his thick features. What did you zugging call it? Grat puffs his chest out proudly. I think they call it a defile, boss. It's another word for a hole in a side of a mountain. Gazgit pats him heavily on the top of the head a couple of times. Good lad, he says. You've always been a good one with them oomy words. Hedrog looks fit to spit teeth. We got a job to do, lads, Gazgit says then, as close to a whisper as he can, which isn't very close at all. The boss wants the nasty Git taken care of, and this is our best chance. I want you all down there, dead quiet like. He points at Mad Parsnick. None of your blasting gubbins, Pars. Not this time. Mad Parsnick isn't happy about that. He loves to blow humans up, does Pars. I want it sneaky and stabby. You got it? Gazgit demands. The orcs all nod along, all except Draglots. Oh, boss, I want a big fight, he says, arms out wide. No, Gazgit shouts, slapping Draglots across the chops. Stabby, sneaky. Other boys has tried to kill the nasty Git with the big ducker. You always done him in. He slaps his chest. We's the commando boys. We is who they send in when no one else can do the job, right? All right? The orcs all nod along, even Draglots, who's still holding his jaw. Right. No more talking. Get down there nice and quiet, Gazgit tells them before stomping off towards the defile. The other boys start to fan out and follow him. Draglots pulls up alongside Grat as they creep round a humid tank. I want a big fight, Grat, he says, his enormous shoulders slumped. Orcs always have a big fight on this planet. It's what it's here for. Big battles, big Docker. The big final battlefield, ain't it? It is, Gratz agrees. But the nasty git sees us coming when we does that drag. He knows we like a big fight here. Uses it against us, don't he? Draglots nods. Yeah, I know. He scratches his chin. What's it the Humies call this place again? I never remember. Armageddon, Gratz tells him, before giving his little stabber a lick up the edge of the blade. Down at the lower end of the plateau, where the mountains block out the grey twilight, it's much darker. There are dead Humies and orcs lying everywhere, the detritus of a battle long past. It's quiet too. Grat likes it when it's quiet. Slitting throats is much easier. He knows that the rest of the boys are close, but he can't see them anymore. All the broken Humie tanks and busted up orc vehicles make for a lot of good cover. Grat knows he's ahead of all of them, though. I'm gonna get him. The nasty git is gonna feel my little stabber across his neck, he mutters to himself as he scuttles along, entering the large crevice carved out of the side of the mountain. The further he gets into the defile, the darker it becomes. Away from all the banging and shouting, he figures it would make a nice quiet place for sleep. The nasty git must be taking a break in here, Grat reckons. Poor little Humie, all tired because of all the orkies he's been killing, he whispers in the darkness with a small chuckle. Then Grat spins around as he hears one of the boys behind him clanging about like a squig with a rocket up its backside. That was Hedrog. Hedrog isn't a real commando. He isn't sneaky enough. Grat spits out a couple of quiet insults and looks back ahead into the gloom. He doesn't see or hear anyone moving about back there. Maybe the nasty git and his boys all rested up good and proper, getting ready for a big scrap. Lots of good orcs have been killed by them in the past few months. Even old Cragtooth. The nasty git took his head right off, he did. They say he even ate some of old Cragtooth as well. They say the nasty git has always liked doing that. It's what made him big and strong over all those years. Grat doesn't believe it, though. Humies aren't like that. They're delicate. Which is another good word that he has learned, just like defile. And look, there he is now, sat on a boulder at the end of the dark crevice with his back turned, and all his boys sleeping around him, just like Grat thought they would be. To the little orc, it looks as though he's watching over them, keeping an eye out while they sleep away, like good little delicate Humies. Well, you can't protect them from me, nasty git, 'cause I is sneaky and clever. You won't hear me coming. The dangerous Humie he's been sent to kill is still and silent, looking down at the embers of a small fire that lights the walls around him with a dull red glow. Grat is much closer now, close enough to hear the nasty git breathing softly. Behind him, he sees the rest of the boys closing in as well. Their silhouettes loom large against the darkening sky behind. There's not going to be a chance for any of the Humies to get out of here. None at all. Closer. Almost there. He's right behind him now. Grat raises his little sharp stabber so he can bring it around to cut the nasty git's throat. Gazgit's gonna make me his main lad. All he has to do is swipe his blade across his neck, and suddenly the air is full of Docker. Loud, nasty, Humie Docker. Grat howls in surprise as his world turns from one of quiet, promising darkness into a blistering, angry firestorm. Elias Bain doesn't rush to stand up. He doesn't have to. The Callous Jacks have got this situation well under control. He trusts them with his life, and he knows that they can dispense with a bunch of orc commandos without needing his help. By the time he's fully standing and has turned to survey the scene, a lot of orcs are already dead. Most of them have been charred into unrecognizable husks. Some have tried to run from the crevice they've been lured into, but it's hard to escape an enfilade this tight and well prepared. One orc, the biggest and presumably the knob, has made it a good 20 yards back out onto the wreckage-strewn plateau. Bain watches as it is systematically taken to pieces. First, its right arm is obliterated, then its left leg below the knee. Bain nods in approval. Always overkill the large ones. The opening kill shot is rarely successful, due to the resilience of that kind of orc. He learned that from Ogrish Skullchewer, on a day that feels like it was a century ago. This knob is no Skullchewer, though. That monster would have made a fight of it. This one dies in a brutal hail of gunfire from above, without much protest. Only the little one is left alive, as he ordered. Bain sees that it is now missing its right hand thanks to Telkas and the accuracy of his las rifle. He recruited the young Cadian because he'd never seen someone with a steadier hand or a better eye. The little orc is pushing itself away, clutching at the stump where its knife-wielding hand used to be. There's a look of abject fear in its eyes that sits very well with Bain. It's exactly what he was hoping for. Always keep one of them alive. They have a purpose to serve. Bain stalks towards the orc, allowing it to push itself right back against the rock wall. It looks down at the blood jetting from the stump with no small degree of horror. The injury won't kill it. Orcs are too damn tough for something like a missing hand to end them. But it's scared. Very scared. About as terrified as a rookie guardsman once was, clutching at his own wounded hand, trapped in a very similar place to this. That would make you Skullchewer now, though, wouldn't it, lad? The monster in the mountain. Are you sure you want that? Whether he wants it or not, one thing is certain. That kind of reputation is a weapon. Bain looms over the creature and brings up his chainsword, pressing the end against the orc's skull. It whimpers as he applies a little pressure. You know who I am, Bain rasps. It nods. Then say my damned name. Use the nasty git! The nasty git! That's right, he growls theatrically. Orcs aren't subtle creatures. The overblown menace is required. What do they call you? Grat! My name's Grat! The terror makes its eyes bulge. Very well, Grat. Your boys are dead, torn to pieces in seconds. You saw that, yes? It nods, thick green lips quivering. You tried to kill me, but failed, just like all the other orcs who have been sent against me. Bain leans in a little more, the chainsword now pressing the orc's head right into the rock. I'm unkillable, Grat. I'm the nasty git. I'm the nightmare-stalking Armageddon. I'm the monster in the shadows. No ducker can stop me. No war can hurt me. It's overblown, pompous nonsense. But it works. Grat's terror reaches new levels. I'll kill any orc that tries to challenge me, Bain continues, the growl getting even deeper. Even Gazgul himself. His eyes flash. You want to stay alive, Grat? Or do you want to go to Gork and Mork a coward, pinned like a bug against a wall? Bain pushed the chainsword against the orc's head so hard now that Grat winces with pain. I want to live, it shrieks. And if I grant you this mercy, what are you going to do for me? Bain demands. I dunno, it replies, trying to shake its head, but unable to, thanks to the chainsword pinning it in place. Now Bain pushes the weapon as hard as he dares. Any more would crack the orc's thick skull, and he needs it alive for what comes next. Here's what you're going to do, Grat, Bain says. You're going to crawl back to your friends and tell them all about what happened here today. Tell them all about me. Tell them all about the monster in the mountain. Make them understand. Can you do that, Grat? The look in his eyes tells him all he needs to know. Bain keeps applying the pressure for a few moments more, before stepping back and releasing the creature from its torment. It looks up at him in shock, scarcely able to believe what's just happened. Bain leads forward again, "Run," he tells it in a harsh whisper, which is exactly what Grat does, showing a turn of speed and level of dexterity that Bain has rarely seen in one of its kind. "Risky," Dram Varant points out as he picks his way over the orc corpses that are now strewn across the entrance to the defile. "Necessary," Bain replies, still watching Grat scramble up the other side of the plateau. "Wars need monsters, Dram. The enemy have them in droves. Why not create some of our own?" "Is that what you want to be, Sarge? A monster?" Valentine asks in the same tone the phantom Muldrin Teg just used in the vaults of his subconscious. It's not a question he'd countenance from any other Jack, but Dram Valentine is more than just one of his men. He's his friend, or at least the nearest Bain can ever get to one. "He'll die one day, lad, just like I did." "Aye, he will at that, Mull, but not today, I think. The only ones dying today are the orcs." Bain looks at Dram, shaking off the memories of a man long dead. "Fear is the best tool we have, the best weapon I have," he sighs. "I can be the monster." "But is that really what you think you are, Sarge?" Valentine says, taken aback. Bain is about to give an answer he might regret, when he's interrupted by a Vox transmission pushed across every channel that the Callous Jacks employ. "Imperial Command to Sergeant Elias Bain. Respond immediately, Sergeant." The voice is metallic and rough, that of a servitor, no doubt. Bain grits his teeth at the fact he apparently doesn't want a human being to communicate with, but hits the comm bead on his Vox set and replies, "Bain to command. Go ahead." "Your presence is required immediately at Exicor Outpost. Transport has been arranged for your squad for pickup on the Tarantulas Plain. 1400 hours. Acknowledge." "What's this about, Command?" "Operational security in effect. No further information will be divulged at this time. Acknowledge orders." "Orders received and understood," Bain says with a shrug. He goes where he's told, after all, not where he wants. "Well, that sounds bad," Valentine says. "What do you think it's about?" "I guess we'll find out," Bain responds, looking out over the plateau to see that Grat has disappeared from sight. In that moment, he has to wonder which of them is returning to a worse reception. Exicor Outpost is small, unobtrusive, and lies in a shallow valley, surrounded by a landscape rendered flat and desolate by centuries of warfare. Barely large enough to accommodate a few companies and the odd vehicle or two, it hunkers down in the blasted mud and rock. A grey, misshapen lump of rockcrete and plasteel. In the middle of nowhere like this, not much more is needed. This is a nothing place, unimportant and almost forgotten. It's with a degree of surprise, then, that Bain notices a black Adeptus Astartes Thunderhawk stationed next to the Valkyrie that has just delivered the Callous Jacks to this lowly location. "By the throne, Space Marines," Mustine says, making the signal of the Aquila as he walks down their ship's exit ramp. "Black Templars," Valentine notes, indicating the cross icon painted on the Thunderhawk's flank. "Yes," Bain replies, eyes narrowing. "Keep your wits about you, everyone." Valentine's eyes go wide. "You think something dangerous is—" "I don't know what to think, Dram," he interrupts. "Just be ready for anything." "Always," Dram replies and unshoulders his lasgun. Bain hears the 3 short clicks he sends over the Vox to indicate that the rest of the squad should be on high alert. Where you find Adeptus Astartes, you invariably find trouble. In silence, the Callous Jacks fan out behind Bain. The squad then spot a commissar striding towards them, with a small retinue of Tempestus Scions at her back. The haughty look on her youthful face instantly reminds Bain of Peter Malviat. Is that what this is about? After all these years, have they finally come to punish him for what he did on Haikar's Doubt? Bain is pretty sure they wouldn't need Space Marines for that. "Sergeant Bain," the commissar says as she approaches, I am Commissar Shailen Likara. You are hereby ordered to accompany me to an operational meeting in the command vault." "What about my men?" Bain replies. "They can go to the mess hall for the time being," she says. "You are summoned to the meeting, nobody else." "A meeting with whom?" he asks. Her left eye twitches. "Members of High Command. I am not at liberty to discuss further." Bain's hackles rise. He doesn't like any of this. He's never been summoned this way before. Orders come over Vox channels, not inside command bunkers. He turns to address Valentine. "Stand down, take the squad and go and get some food." He thinks for a moment. "And find me a mug of recaf." "Aye, Sergeant," Valentine says, his eyes darting around the outpost. Bain looks back at the Commissar. "After you then, sir," he says, holding out his hands towards the largest grey rockcrete structure in the outpost, some 20 yards away. He assumes this is where the meeting will take place. The golden aquila above the rusting double doors certainly indicates as much, as do the 2 Tempestor scions standing to either side of it. The Commissar does not reply, but turns on her heel and marches off in precisely that direction. Bain follows, eyes constantly tracking around his surroundings, his hand never far from his bolt pistol's holster. The metal door's hinges squeal arthritically when the scions open them at Likara's behest. Once through, she and Bain descend into Armageddon's rocky interior, down a broad flight of stairs. As they do so, Bain notices several Auspex monitors buried in the walls on either side, and then growls in irritation, as no less than 4 Sovo skulls fly around his head, bathing him in the red light of their eye scanners. At the bottom of the stairs, the area opens out into a large, rough-hewn atrium, bedecked in Imperial insignia. Flanking another set of double doors in the rock wall are 2 Black Templars, their heads nearly touching the ceiling. The bolters in their hands look comically huge in comparison to Bain's weaponry. He tries to quell the sense of existential terror that threatens to overwhelm him. The Space Marine's sheer size provokes feelings of insanity. They are as immobile as statues, but he's seen how fast these things can move when they want to. "These are the real monsters, Grat, not me. Pray you never have to face one." The Adeptus Astartes do not move a muscle as the doors are opened. They do not have to. Power radiates off them in waves. Whoever lies beyond has the greatest protection that can be afforded to an Imperial officer. Bain's heart rate increases, and he feels a distinct flutter in his chest. It's not a sensation he's used to. The Commissar leads him into a large square chamber clearly designated as a space for tactical and strategic planning. Banks of cogitators sit against the walls. No guardsman or servitor works at them. An enormous hollow projector occupies the center of the room, currently inactive. A single door is set into the left-hand wall, between 2 of the cogitators. Around the hollow projector stand several men and women, all at attention. Majors Kantau and Hebridan are here, as is General von Reich. There's another General Bain does not recognize, as well as 2 more commissars that he does. They are standing to either side of a 3rd commissar at the head of a hollow table. His back is turned, and he's surveying a large cogitator screen set against the rear wall. The map of Armageddon it displays is the most detailed Bain has ever seen. The harsh green glare emanating from the display renders this final figure's silhouette somewhat indistinct, but there's something about it that raises the hackles on the back of Bain's neck. What is that hunk of metal in his right hand? "Thank you, Likara. You may go," Commissar Damon Maydrive tells his subordinate. She nods, salutes, and makes her way back out of the room. After she is gone, the doors close, sealing Bain in with more command officers and senior staff than he has ever seen in his life. The man scrutinizing the display on the rear wall switches off the cogitator screen and turns around, causing Bain to feel something he has not experienced in many, many years. Awe. Genuine, heart-stopping awe. Yarrick. Commissar Sebastian Yarrick. Throne take me. Sergeant Elias Bain of the infamous Callous Jacks, Yarrick says, his voice a low rasp that somehow still manages to fill the room. Bain has to wonder how he can still stand so stiffly at attention with that enormous power claw dragging down his right side. But then, everything about Yarrick's demeanor speaks of a man who believes he is in complete control of everything. Yes, sir, Bain replies, and swallows hard. Skull Chewer's Bain, Yarrick remarks without a hint of amusement. Bain's jaw tightens. This might be Sebastian Yarrick in front of him, but he's not happy about the course this conversation has already taken. Yarrick's one remaining organic eye widens. Not an epithet you appreciate, Sergeant? Your clash with that orc has become something of a legend. Bain considers this for a moment, before raising his right hand. It was a long time ago, sir. An ogreish skull-chewer mutilated me. Took most of this hand. Would have removed my head too, were it not for the men in my unit. I was hardly its bane. And were it not for the unfortunate similarity to my name, I would never have earned that epithet. The hard expression on his face softens a little. I was given it by a good man, though, as a warning and a lesson, one I've never forgotten. A good man, you say? Yes, and a good friend. Yarrick nods thoughtfully before continuing. It's not the only name you've earned for yourself in your career, Sergeant. No, sir. You seem to have a habit of picking them up, even in the short time you've served on Armageddon. I believe the orcs have come to call you the Nasty Git. The orc-like inflection Yarrick places on the name is pitch perfect. Yes, sir. They don't hang names like that on just anyone, Sergeant. No, sir. I suppose you'd know that only too well, sir. A brief smile flickers across Yarrick's lips. Yes, Sergeant. I suppose I would. He agrees, studying Bain carefully as he does so. This becomes more and more disconcerting every moment that passes, largely due to that blood-red augmetic eye. It's like looking into a furnace, or a star about to go supernova. You've earned yourself quite a powerful reputation in the Cadian 96th and beyond, Sergeant, Yarrick says eventually. Which is why you were summoned here today. Sir? I will be departing Armageddon very soon. Bain can see the expressions on the faces of the others present as the old man says this. Some of them don't think Yarrick should be leaving, that much is obvious. Is the battle won? Bain asks, brow furrowing for a moment in confusion. It certainly doesn't feel like it. The smile on Yarrick's face grows tight. The battle is never won, Sergeant, but it does change, and as such, we must do the same. I will be leaving the planet, and when I am gone, I want to know I have the best men in place to continue the struggle. Bain has no response to this, so chooses not to bother trying. Yarrick appraises the silence for a moment. The smile then becomes a little more natural. Men like you, Sergeant Bain. I want men of your character in command here. You do, sir? Indeed. And as such, it's been agreed by your senior officers that you will be granted a battlefield promotion to the rank of captain. I trust this is... No, thank you, sir. I beg your pardon? Bain swallows hard again. I said, no thank you, sir. He's taking his life in his hands here, and he knows it. This is Sebastian Yarrick he's turning down. But the idea of becoming an officer fills him with a loathing he can barely stomach. He leads the Callous Jacks, the best unit in the Imperium of Man. 9 men and him. It's a world he understands, the only world he has ever understood. A captain's work is bigger, harder, filled with more bureaucracy, more decisions, and more responsibility. I am the weapon of the Emperor. You point me in a direction, and I go. I complete the mission. I survive. That is what I am. No more, no less. Yarek's cold gaze does not leave Bain as he stands there for a moment, a grim calculating expression crossing his haggard features. "Follow me, Sergeant," he orders abruptly and moves towards a door in the left-hand wall. Bain exhales heavily and does as he is told. As he passes the other senior officers, each appraises him in turn. They look like they are watching a grox being taken to be slaughtered. The door slides open and Yarek strides through. Bain follows and finds himself in a small, sparse office. The only decoration present is a gold aquila on the wall behind a black metal desk and chair. Papers and data slates litter the desktop. Once the door closes behind him, Bain feels the crawl of a fight-or-flight response rising up his back. Being in a room this small and private with Commissar Yarek is very disconcerting, especially to a man refusing his orders. Yarek turns swiftly and regards the reluctant sergeant with a stare that looks as if it had been carved from the bedrock of Armageddon itself. He is over 2 feet shorter than the Adeptus Astartes outside the briefing chamber, but no less intimidating. "Does the idea of command scare you, Sergeant?" he asks in a blunt tone. "Sir?" "You can admit it here, away from everyone else. Your achievements grant you that much grace at least." Bain's eyes narrow. "I am not scared, Commissar, but I know that every decision I make, every order I give, leads to my men getting killed." Bain feels pain shoot up his right arm, and he has to force himself to unclench his augmetic fingers. "I get names hung on me like medals, while they continue to die." He draws a sharp breath. "And I do not want to send even more to their deaths. I do not want that responsibility." "I have sent more men to their deaths than you can imagine, Sergeant," Yarek spits. "Don't preach to me about the burdens of command." "Then you understand my reticence, sir. If I make a mistake as a captain, it isn't 1 or 2 men I kill. It's dozens, maybe hundreds." "My mistakes have killed millions," Yarek snaps. Bain goes wide-eyed at this. "Sir? Of course. But they can still call me a hero, and they also hang names on me, like medals, as you say. But that kind of reputation has worth." Bain nods. "To strike fear into the enemy." "Partially," Yarek replies. "But you're not as wise as you believe yourself to be. You miss a very obvious value in those names, in that reputation." "What value is that, sir?" Having Commissar Yarek stare at you from across the other side of a large room is one thing, but having him do it from 2 feet away is soul-destroying. Every livid scar that marks his face tells a story of a life of violence that few men could hope to survive. But Bain will not look away. He has killed orcs in their thousands. He's eaten their flesh to survive. He has fought his way across countless battlefields, and he will not break this man's gaze, no matter who he is. "Hope, Sergeant Bain," Yarek says. "With every name they give you, with every Xenos you kill, with every order you give, you provide the men with hope." "Hope," Bain repeats, his mouth suddenly very dry. "Yes, Elias. Without hope we fail. Without hope we are overrun. Hate is the fuel in the engine of war. But hope is the spark that ignites it. That is your job, Sergeant. That is my job as well. We are the flint in which hope is sparked." Yarek's expression turns solemn. "You are a singular man, Elias, and that is a burden you must carry. You are granted advancement to captain not as a reward for your efforts, but because of the hope you can bring to our men, alongside the fear you can bring to our enemies. And if I still refuse?" "If you still refuse, Elias Bain," Yarek says, stepping back so he stands at arm's length and drawing his pistol, "I will put a bolt through your head right here and now." For the briefest of moments, Bain stares into the barrel of Yarek's weapon and considers his future. He eventually decides that he'd rather have one. Bain offers Commissar Yarek the sign of the Aquila, the first time he has used it in longer than he can remember. I accept the promotion, sir. Thank you. The tight smile returns. Thank me on the battlefield, Captain. Thank me with every alien you kill and every man you rouse to action. I will, Commissar. Good man. You will receive fresh orders in due course, and you may expend the Callous Jacks as you see fit. I believe that there are many men and women of a fine caliber who would seek to serve with you. Yes, sir. The Emperor has plans for you and your men, Captain Bain. Rise to that honor. I will, sir. Yarrick gives him a curt nod. Then we are done here. You are dismissed. This time, Bain snaps off a standard salute and turns to leave the office. But as his hand reaches for the door, he pauses and turns back. Captain? Yarrick asks. Something more you wanted? I don't feel him with me, sir, Bain says, a catch in his voice. Yarrick regards Bain with a careful expression. Go on, Captain, he says, his voice brittle. I used to, Bain continues. A long time ago, I used to know he was there. But I've seen too much, I've done too much. And I don't think he is there anymore. How can he be? This is the kind of heresy that gets men killed, even ones who have just been promoted. Yarrick's chin rises. Your point, Captain. Ask him, lad. You might as well. If he doesn't have the answer, I doubt anyone has. Do you think he's with us, sir? With you? Commissar Sebastian Yarrick's expression does not change one iota, and yet Bain sees everything he needs to in that worn but defiant face. He sees years of service, of toil, of pain and hate and vengeance and triumph. The Emperor protects, Yarrick tells him, his voice devoid of emotion, and for a moment Bain thinks that's all that the old man is going to say. But then Yarrick takes a deep breath, and his shoulders shift ever so slightly. His expression of cold resolve changes to one of bitter resignation. But even if he doesn't, would that change anything, Elias? For you? No, sir, Bain replies in a near whisper. Then you are dismissed, Captain, Yarrick says, the stiff formality instantly back in his voice. Go bring your men some hope, even if you feel none. Bain suddenly feels that he needs to leave this room more than he has ever needed to evacuate any war zone in his life. His heart is racing as he slides open the door and steps out. He walks back past the senior officers in the main room, and then past the two bulky black Templars outside. They do not acknowledge his presence in any way. That suits Bain quite well. He's had enough of squaring out to the Imperium's finest for one lifetime. As he leaves the command vault, something inexplicably shifts inside Elias Bain. The exhaustion that has hung across his shoulders for years begins to fall away as he climbs the stairs out of Yarrick's bunker, the old man's words ringing in his ears. Those words have finally made Bain realize he is not just a cold, empty instrument of fear. He is not just a propaganda tool meant to demoralize the enemy. He is not just a monster. He has more worth than that. He is Skullchewer's Bane and the Orc Eater. He is the hero of Highkar's Doubt and a nasty Git. His life is, and always will be, consumed by war, but there is hope in what he does. Bain understands that now. Maybe not for himself, as Yarrick said, but there is hope for others. For the Callous Jacks, for the Cadians he serves with, for all the men and women who hold back the tide. He can give that to them. And that is more than enough to keep him in the fight, he decides, for however long that may be. Everything all right, Sarge? Dram Valentine asks as he walks up to Bain, a hot cup of recaf in his hand. Go on, lad, take it. Find a cot somewhere. You deserve a rest before going out there. Everything's fine, Dram, Bain tells his corporal, not bothering to tell him about the promotion. that can come later. The recaf tastes terrible. The reddened skies above are choked with the smoke and ash of constant warfare. There is death out there waiting for Elias Bain somewhere. He is certain of that. And yet, he smiles. Because there is work to be done before that day arrives. The Emperor has plans for him and his Callous Jacks, according to Yarrick, and if he can make even a fraction of the impact that the old man has had, then it will all be worth it. There is hope to give those who fight alongside him, and death for those who oppose him. Elias Bain knows he is the right man for that job. He has faith in that, as does one of the greatest warriors in the galaxy. And in the Imperium of Man, faith is the only thing a man really needs.